Pleasure.
All right, welcome to another edition of the BS sessions, man. But before we get started, we got a star on here. We got a guy who makes actual albums that I bought and Jerry's bought. Yeah, you, Lou. Severed Angel, man. Tell us about your band really quick because this guy's got to go to bed.
Sure, no problem. Hey, how's everybody doing? Severed Angel, we're a 5-piece based in the Northeast. We write metal for ourselves, and we don't care if it's not the mainstream acceptable type of metal. You know, it's melodic, it's driving, and I'm grateful for everyone who's bought a copy or, follows us on streaming media. So thank you. It's a real pleasure.
And you also have a podcast, Music is Life, right?
Yeah, that's actually been kind of on hiatus because even though album 1 of Severed Angel is out, I'm very involved with Rat Style Review as a co-host. We already have album number 2 wrapped up, and album number 3 is currently in the works. So, the creative juices are flowing. So it's kind of hard to take time out to just interview artists, and I don't want to insult them and interview them one day and then all of a sudden it's like their episode's out a month later. Because if anyone's seen my content, I have an editing background, so I do a lot of editing. It's how I keep my chops up. So
Lou, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Mark. All right,
go ahead.
So if you could compare your band to any one band or any genre, like general genre, what would you say? Just because I'm interested now. So
that's a really good question. I mean, all of us have like really different influences. Like Wayne, our drummer, like his favorite band is Halloween. Our singer, Alex, his favorite band is Dream Theater. My favorite bands are Maiden and Sabbath. But I
throw coming together.
But I kind of throw in like a Swedish like melodic death metal type influence. Like I played one song for a friend of mine, and he's like, "Dude, it's like you cross-pollinated soil work with Unearth,h," and I'm like, "That's
I was just about to say soil work." So
I love soil work.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And the reason why I'm asking also because my follow-up question, because it sounds like you guys trend in a progressive power metal feel.
Yeah, I mean, what it is? It's like we're not purposely trying to follow trends. It's just
not.
whatever comes naturally.
Of course.
I mean, look at it this way. 20 years ago, I was in a band where, I was writing riffs that were quality to my standards at the time. Because again, when you're 22 as opposed to 42, your standards hopefully increase.
Yeah.
I had a band member though that wanted me to write songs like The Starting Line. I'm like, dude, I'm not writing songs like The fucking Starting Line. I hate that emo shit.
Right.
So,
all right, man.
I
don't want to turn this into the Severed Angel show. Maybe okay. Maybe we get together. I have my own YouTube channel, which I'm sure we'll get to momentarily, and I interview artists as well. So I would love to
I've been more than happy to do it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, at the end, I'm gonna let you promote that. I just want to promote his band a little bit because
of course, I'm all for that, man. New artists are always my jam. I love that shit. So
thanks, man. Mark, Jerry, thank you for all the support you guys are giving us. I appreciate
it. It's not just support; it's great music, man. I want to thank you for the good music, man.
Thank you. I
mean, I was blown away with that Ghost cover you guys did.
Yeah, the funny thing is,
Hammer, dude, that fucking ruled, dude.
Like I like it better than Ghost.
Mark, I was gonna say because a lot of people who I know who can't stand Ghost actually like our cover.
There's better vocals for me.
But even the crazier thing is like people who do love Ghost prefer our version, and I'm like, all right, well that's a real compliment. But I read one review. I don't really read reviews of our band because it's just like I'm still gonna do how I do it. But one review said,
"Oh no."
Oh no!
Oh no!
So Jerry, man, what's going on, dude?
Freeze this moment.
No, I was gonna get to you when he was done. Jerry, man, how you doing? Lou, come in. If you can hear us, come in, come back. What's up, Jerry?
I'm doing good.
All right, Charles, man, what's going on?
Hey, man,
what's going on? I don't know what's going on with Lou. Lou,
is Chris frozen too?
No, he isn't. There he is.
Hey, I got frozen.
You were
there
frozen.
You go. All right.
All right, man. Well, you guys want to get into the BS? Anything? Oh,
No.
wait, he'll come back. So thank you guys for being here. Chris, thank you for I was waiting for Charles for you to say that, Jerry. But Charles, man.
We're so
Okay.
disorganized and very discombobulated.
Yeah, we're more organized on this podcast than we are on the other one. So, but hey, okay, Lou,
I'm
you're
back.
All right, let's get into the BS, man. I'm gonna let's start off with the people who died. I only have one guy who died. I just found out about this today. Jerry Moss, who was the M in A&M Records, passed today. You have any thoughts about that, Chris?
I remember the logo on all the Styx records that I used to listen to all the time. And other than that, I mean, you know, it's sad when anyone dies, I guess. But at the end of the day, I could give, you know, less than 2 testicles of what happens to a record executive, honestly. So they don't do anything.
But you know
good.
that record company was for the artist, though. It was made by artists. Herb Albert was the A, you know, Tijuana Brass.
Yeah,
Just
I know
letting you
who
know.
I know who they are. Like I get it, but at the end of it all, like I don't know. I don't want to be cynical about it, and I don't want to be shitty about it. But like I can't like lament the loss of a record executive at the end of the or even an owner.
Clive Davis.
It's so. I mean, these guys are brilliant people. I'm not saying that they didn't see the opportunity, but at the end of it all, like it's not like I don't know. It's just that's just my take. You know, I love A&M Records because I love the music that came out of that record label. But other than that, I have no other thoughts on the M in A&M.
All right. What about you, Lou?
You know, growing up, 2 bands that I loved were The Police and Y&T, both who were on A&M Records. You know, at the time, you know, I thought, oh, record labels sign good musicians to record deals. I didn't understand then that it was a business whose main concern was driving product for profit and in some ways ripping the bands off. You know, when I was younger, you know, I admit being on a record label was a dream of mine. Now that I'm older and wiser, I really have no attachment to record labels or you know, I got no love for record execs. I mean, we were talking about Clive Davis before. As far as I'm concerned, that guy's responsible for Whitney Houston's death, so fuck him. So I have
There you go. There it is. I'm sure.
I have no love for you know, these jerks who, you know, push artists just to keep them on the road, bleed them dry. You know, how many great artists are dead because of all the pressure that they're put under to have to sell. You know, if music was more of a commodity of quality and value, where it's like, you know, like today's day and age, I think is perfect because, you know, you could do it yourself. And if people catch on, great. If not, oh well, that's okay, because you know what, you got your shit out. So,
but at the same time, you know, it's funny that you bring this up, and I know this is like a side BS thing, but it's interesting that there's an artist on the show here having this conversation because I just recently had a discussion on Facebook where, you know, you've seen the meme go around with all the list of like Spotify pays this and YouTube pays this and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
blah,
that's pretty recent.
And slamming all the streaming, you know, sites, and that's horseshit across the board. It's insane. But like at the same time, what's worse? Like do you give up the opportunity at exposure because of Spotify and because of my very niche tastes of like prog metal and prog rock, I've been introduced to a host of bands that like I would have never known existed if it wasn't for Apple Music or for Spotify doing that. Because you like this, you may want to listen to this, right? And if we were relying on physical media, I'm not going to go out and drop $13, $14 on a band I've never heard of before. So it's almost like a catch-22. You know what I mean? What do you do about that? Ultimately, these record labels need to negotiate, or these bands need to the streaming sites have to do better. They just have to do better. It's corporation shit. That's why this record guy doesn't mean shit to me. It all started there like a long time ago.
Well, I always say that if you like what you're hearing on Spotify, if you like the artist enough that you want to support them directly, buy stuff on their Bandcamp, buy some merch from them.
Absolutely. Or when you see them live, buy their merch.
If you see them live, hopefully the venue won't take 30% of the cut.
That too. That's a new thing too. Yeah. What the hell?
All right.
Yeah, I just interviewed Gus G and he told me that these are logistics that he has to plan out well in advance to make sure everybody's paid.
Yeah. So Charles, any thoughts on A&M? Jerry Moss?
Well, to the guests, we always review who dies for some reason and have to show emotion or something, but I don't know who the guy is. But hey, they did sign the Carpenters.
There you go.
They also had the Police, Oingo Boingo.
Well, I
and
like
Y&T.
So there you go, Oingo Boingo.
I thought Oingo Boingo was an MCA band.
No, they went to MCA after their first album with MCA was Dead Man's Party.
I remember that. Just Another Day, great opening track.
Yeah, they no, they were with A&M, dude.
We can
got
blame
only
them
laugh with
for Oingo
A&M.
Boingo.
The Police were on there too, and Styx, man.
I should be mad at them about Oingo Boingo. Who the hell wants to hear that shit?
Well, I'm just saying they didn't make a lot of money, but they made a lot of albums for them. So they took that at that particular record company took care of the artist.
Tisk. And you're always dogging on the Carpenters.
I don't like them because they put me to sleep. It's like James Taylor.
Hey, Karen Carpenter might. Karen Carpenter might be a better drummer than she is a singer.
I think so.
She was pretty badass.
She was, but I don't want to hear Rainy Days and Mondays always get me down. I'm just gonna
Lazy Days, get it right.
Whatever it was.
So Jerry, just listen to the album Passage. It's an interesting listen.
I don't like Linda Ronstadt either. Sue me.
Oh my God, I absolutely will for that one.
Jerry, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, it sucks when people die. I mean, you guys mentioned it all. I knew, being a huge Styx fan, I remember getting the 45s, the orange, insides where it said A&M Records on it. I mean, and that's about all I remember. I know they had the Police and Y&T and a couple other bands I can't remember offhand. But yeah, I mean, it sucks. But like Lou says, man, he's a record freaking executive. Man, how bad can you actually feel? So
they had a lot of alternative artists on there before there was alternative.
Well, I don't know. It's sad that he's died for his family. That's all I can really say about it.
Them and IRS records, man. I loved IRS. A lot of shit from them. I'm just saying I love Styx. I liked when I was a kid, I see that big A&M on it. I knew I was going to get something good because I never heard anything bad. Now I know the Carpenters are on there. I didn't know. Well, there it is. But that's all I got to say about it. I want to get to Charles. You have a rant, brother.
I sure do. Once again, Hagar dudes out there lying again. Saw it again this week. New post out there. Sammy Hagar said, David Lee Roth just can't get with that. The Hagar era was more popular. And out comes the Hagar fans on our page saying, yeah, he's right. 57. I don't like using sales as a parameter too much because we all know that doesn't mean quality over quantity. Or, it could be whatever. But David Lee Roth's albums with Van Halen sold 57 million. Hagar sold 27 million. In what world is that making Hagar more popular?
Hagar's world.
On a classic rock channel, do you hear Van Hagar songs often, if any?
Yes.
You do.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. You do hear them, but not as much as you hear the rock.
Sirius XM, they're all over those channels
More
too.
so than the rock. Oh no, I didn't
just
talk
about
Sirius.
just about even, dude.
I don't say it's even. No,
I didn't talk about Sirius XM.
No, at 95.5 they play them a lot.
Radio. They play them more than the Roth.
No, but they play them.
Okay.
As someone who worked for Sirius Satellite Radio for 2 years, all they play is like the popular stuff, whatever songs were the hits. Now, first off, record sales are unfair for a multitude of reasons. One, and now I'm not defending Hagar, so you saw my rant on there, Charles. So you can't. So what I will say is, I equally like DLR and Sammy era VH equally. I truly do. I think it's the time that I grew up. I was 10 years old when 5150 came out. It was like one of my favorite albums ever, and it sticks that way to this very day. However, with that being said, DLR had 3 more albums than Sammy did. So that's why record sales go out, total sales go right out the window. With
Sammy
that
had
being,
there was only 2 more albums.
nope. There was the last.
Oh,
the last
I don't
one
count
too.
the last one.
You
I'm
gotta
counting
count the
when
last one,
Hanger
'cause
was in there.
Yeah, but it
Okay.
goes,
All
it
right.
goes with the record sales. And then on top of that, there's a lot of like give and take there. Like obviously there is no Sammy Hagar era without David Lee Roth. Like that's just a fact. Like forget about, put aside like who you think a better singer is, who you think wrote better songs or whatever. The fact of the matter is that the Van Halen for the first 6 albums, that's the classic. That's the classic. That would be like saying like, oh, well, you know, Kiss sold X amount of records in the 80s, and that's something to be said. But like, if it wasn't for the makeup era, who gives a shit about Crazy Nights and all that other crap? Like nobody would care. So like, obviously you can't even compare the two. I think they're 2 completely different bands, honestly. I think Eddie was moving in a completely different direction. That's why he had to split with DLR, and it was showing once you moved on to Sammy. I think they're just different bands. It's a bullshit talking point to begin with.
No, well, I don't think so.
I don't-
I understand what you're saying, but
I
Is
just don't
Charles
think
Sound
Hagar's legacy that nobody cares about is more popular than David Lee Roth's era that people do care about. Passion.
The only thing I said on that post, this article's old. That's all I said.
Sammy Hagar's
Wait,
worst
Charles, did you
his
claim
own
that
mouth.
no one? I'm sorry, what, Jerry?
I was gonna say Sammy Hagar's worst enemy is his own mouth, man.
Because I know we talked about, he said that Roth refuses to acknowledge the Hagar era of like maybe 30, 40 episodes ago.
Well,
Just, I'm just saying, but he's talking about the people who commented on that.
Yes,
post.
and I
Yeah.
just think it's always bizarro world that the Sammy twats always take on the mantle of their hero who lies and spreads the truth all the time.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, it's more popular.
I just tell you,
agree.
I like it.
No, it's not. It's not more popular.
I mean,
I don't think that, but if you do, if one does, good for them.
well, I mean,
It's more popular. It isn't. You're right.
but I mean, here's a fact. I mean, Sammy's not wrong, because think of it this way: like every album he put out with Van Halen immediately went to number 1.
But what albums were going against it? You know, Van Halen 1984 went against Thriller. And then the last different kind of truth. What was it, Adele that blocked them from number 1?
I mean,
They
first
had
off,
bad luck.
different kind of truth was dog shit from the word go anyway. I don't count that album as good music, number 1.
I think you need to listen to it again.
But that,
Well, for
no,
unlawful
please don't.
carnal knowledge, went against a little album called Nevermind, which didn't happen to go number 1, but it did win the war by going diamond. So I mean, it did
Right. Well, absolutely. But the point that I'm saying, the point that I'm making is that I wouldn't consider it a lie. I would consider it a rose-colored version of what, because Sammy Hagar's still drunk. I mean, the guy drinks like, he came up with his own tequila. The guy probably swims in it. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's just what it is. I see, I'm not defending one or the other. What I am saying is that he's not entirely wrong. I just don't even understand historically. I just think they're both petty bitches who just need to stop. David Lee Roth doesn't stop running his mouth ever.
David Lee
either.
Roth hasn't said shit about Sam.
Yeah, he has.
I'm defending David Lee Roth. You know why? I like both of them.
Right.
You know, they both have a lot of bad solo albums, and I like all the Van Halen albums with them, but I like Roth's better.
If you notice, David Lee Roth did all the shit talking in the 80s because he was like a scorned ex-wife when the 80s happened. And sure, Eat 'Em and Smile and 5150 both had massive sales driven by the fact that there was so much drama going on. So there's no real telling what, you know what I mean? What the actual sales of those albums would be on their own merit, even though they're both fantastic records. With that being said, going forward, you saw a precipitous drop off between Skyscraper and then A Little Ain't Enough and then all the other David Lee Roth albums, whereas Van Halen just kept on going. Like they just kept going. It didn't matter. So the fact remains is that David Lee Roth, like Eddie Van Halen is the real artist here. Can we all agree on that? Like he's
Yeah.
the real man.
I'm not gonna ignore that fact. If I could interject,
Yeah.
well, first of all, is that a Periphery shirt that you're wearing? It says he'll stand on it. I love
It is.
Periphery.
It is one of my
Very
favorite.
cool.
One of the
Mine
the
too.
way I got this shirt's one of my favorite. One of my
Yeah.
favorite stories ever. So I'll tell you sometime.
Cool. I do own a Misha Mansour Apex preamp.
Awesome,
So
yeah.
that's actually my recording gear.
Misha Mansour. Yes.
Yeah.
Good man.
Look, I've always said music is subjective. You know, album sales don't mean anything because in the end it's what your tastes are. Um I don't like Sammy's voice. I don't like his lyrics. It's hard for me to listen to Eddie's amazing riffs with a vocalist and lyricist that I don't enjoy listening to. But I don't begrudge other people who want to listen to it. I mean, the way I look at it, it's like, you know, vanilla or chocolate. You know, you have your preference, and that's fine. I just don't understand why people get hung up over it.
I think it's funny actually. I put up
'Cause it's something
stuff
to
just
talk
for
about.
reaction. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny.
Because
but
it's something to talk about.
I don't
but-
care either or.
But I will say this though, you mentioned it's kind of unfair because you got the classic 6-pack against the 4 albums. So take the 2 albums that sold the most from the DLR era. We'll go with that. We'll go with 1/3. So we'll go with the original with the self-titled, then we'll go with 1984. Both of them sold more than the Hagar era. So for Sammy to say, you know, that his era was more successful, well, in the long run, the classic catalog still sells. You know, I mean, if you look at, if you want to get technical, if you want to go on the RIA website, there, I think the only album to have sold 1 million copies more was probably 5150, and that was it. And I think that stopped at 7. But in the end, it's like, you know, vanilla or chocolate. You know, I just don't get, you know, why people get so hung up on it. You know, I mean, but as far as what you mentioned before, I don't think Dave drew first blood in this war because, you know, when they were making appearances with Sammy, they were slagging Dave at first, and Dave retaliated at a press conference saying that he kept his mouth shut. He was willing to let bygones be with bygones.
You're right.
And then,
You're right.
And then
I'm sorry.
all of a
You're
sudden
right.
he was like, you know, I eat you for breakfast. I eat you and smile. And
I
you know,
remember that. Yeah.
and I was just like, you know what? I think of it like pro wrestling. How do you get asses in the seats? You
That's what
draw
he said.
more heat from the audience.
That's actually
So
what
it was
Dave
a
said.
clever marketing plan.
Yes, that's actually what DLR said, and to be honest, I don't think it was Sammy that was slagging. It was Eddie. I mean, it was an Eddie Dave war first, and then it carried out, and Sammy took the mantle, and so on and so forth.
Well, Eddie
Good call,
slacked
Lou.
everyone.
I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eddie-
good call, Lou. I forgot about that interview when he was like, I don't know if he was backstage at like an awards or something, but that's when Dave said, yeah, gloves are off and the whole bit, and he did his little
Yeah.
bebop badoo bop thing that he does, and
I mean, I prefer DLR because you know what? Fair Warning is my favorite album of all time. That album had such an impact
That's my
on
favorite
me.
Van Halen album too.
so
taste, Marc.
Dirty
so,
movies,
yes.
man. I love dirty movies.
So just so you know, like I
Not in real
like
life.
I said,
though.
I'm an equal opportunity VH fan. 5150 and Fair Warning are my 2 favorite Van Halen albums, like equally. I love those albums equally. So
All right.
it's yeah.
Can we
I
bring
do-
it back?
I-
Can we bring it back to Jerry? I want Jerry.
Sure,
to
I'm sorry,
start saying
Jerry, go
something.
ahead.
So
Sorry,
I
guys.
agree with everything you guys said. I have nothing to say. I'm so tired of talking about Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth. So I'm gonna take a pass on this one.
All right. Charles,
Every
any
fucking
final?
week, you're Sammy Hagar, David Lee Roth. It's the hottest topic talked about probably in all the pages and podcasts I follow. It's like, man,
That
gee,
Motley fucking crew.
Motley
Hey,
Crue.
we have no Motley Crue BS. I took that out.
Thank God.
Dude, I almost
And I was
mentioned
surprised
I
you
almost
were going to talk
mentioned
about Sammy, and I was like, fuck. Took out Motley Crue, but now we're back to Hagar.
I had
Yeah,
massive
I'm
deliberate.
so tired. I'm so freaking tired of talking about Sammy Hagar, man. I just got nothing left, man.
I had massive deliberations on my list, and Motley Crue was in that for a minute. So
Yeah, so we're what we're doing, Charles. You want to say what we're doing, and I'll get back to some BS because we didn't tell people what we were doing.
Our favorite 11 debut albums of all time.
Yeah, man. So anything else on the rant, Charles?
No, just Hagar fucking sucks.
All right.
Eternally.
Well, let's get to something that will probably be near and dear to frickin' Mr. Charles Trainer's heart. Because I got this story for him because I know how much he loves to talk about this band. It's not Oasis. It's not Guns. Well, Guns N' Roses, we have a story about them a little bit later. But Alice Cooper says the Beatles absolutely would have reunited if John Lennon had lived. No one could talk shit about Paul in front of John, or John would sock them. And they were in the Hollywood Vampires together, him and Ringo. And there would be people sitting there like talking shit about John and Paul, and John would get up and hit him. So that's my best friend. Don't talk shit about him.
Yeah.
So
I
Charles,
believe
man,
it. There was
you go
interviews out there with Lennon, dropping hints that he could see them getting back together. That's why fuck Mark David Chapman forever. We'll never know, unfortunately. I mean, yeah, they did Free as a Bird and the Real Love, and I guess there's another one coming out soon. That's cool, but it's still not the same deal. We'll never know, but I do believe that. And yeah, they were like a family internally. There was news of that a lot. Just as how brothers and family should be. Hey, I can talk shit on them, but not you. So, I mean, I get that. Yeah, I can see that totally. They changed the world together, man. Period. I mean, they were the most earth-changing band in the history of the business, in my opinion. So all the bands we're into now owe a debt to them. So,
yeah, somebody put a question up in a Beatles group I was in today, Charles, and it said, if the Beatles never came out, what band would have been the Beatles? I don't know. I didn't even try to answer that question.
The Bee Gees?
Bee Gees?
No, I'm serious. If you listen to the Bee Gees pre-Saturday Night Fever era there, they were definitely emulating the Beatles, except a lot of people theorized, well, not that they theorized, they said that if it wasn't for the Beatles, they might have taken the mantle because their harmonies actually sounded better because they were brothers. So they were like richer and more cohesive. Like it was almost like a wall of sound type of harmony situation. And the songs they wrote were very Beatle-esque back in the day. If you look up on like their Spotify or whatever, there's a record or an album called The Best of the Bee Gees Volume 1, which is like pre-disco era Bee Gees. So and they had massive hits. They had very big hits that were they were already a big band before the disco era even happened. I would say either that or the Rolling Stones.
You're preaching to the choir. Mark hates good music, so he don't like the Bee Gees. He don't like that era. He don't like any era. There's Spicks and Specks. There's a lot of great albums from the Bee Gees, but I don't think they would have been there if it wasn't for the Beatles, though.
It's possible.
Stones,
I mean,
that's very probable. And then the Stones, I mean, the Beatles gave them their first hit, which got them rolling and inspired them to write songs.
True. Good point.
I just, I mean, I'm biased as a Beatles fan, but I just think, American rock and roll was on a deathbed when they took the mantle. I mean, Jerry Lee Lewis was married to his cousin. His career was ruined. Chuck Berry was in jail. Elvis was making movies and not very good ones. There was a lot of rock and roll. It was like Fabian, just a bunch of Bobby Rydell.
Frankie Avalon
in a bad place, and they had to, Frankie Avalon. The Beatles had to come and bring, and it's weird because their music in the beginning wasn't like shaking you up, but it almost had to show the American artists what's up again. And then the Stones came with Dirt, and I love the Stones too. So, but they would have got back together, I believe.
It's a lot like baseball too. If you think about it, the reality of the situation is if they would have let black artists have fame like the white artists, then you could have had like a little Richard or a Chuck Berry or someone like that. Little Richard is massively underrated. Like my wife is the one who I just recently met, like my second wife. like I know Little Richard, but like I didn't realize, like I started listening to his like deep cuts and stuff. Like I was awesome. Like Little Richard
Oh,
is
totally,
fucking
totally. He was preaching
incredible.
at the time, though.
Also
Oh
great and
man,
Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
He was
amazing.
preaching. Chuck Berry was in jail for the Mann Act. There was a
Yeah,
lot of problems going on with these rock artists at the
yeah,
time when the Beatles hit. Plus, you also had one of the, after Pearl Harbor, one of the, the next great American tragedy at that time, Kennedy getting shot and killed. And they debuted right after that in the States on the, not right after it, but February of the next year on the Ed Sullivan Show. And that was it. And they came at the right time. Timing's everything.
Yeah.
Big time. Because there was English bands that came before them that tanked, that were huge in England. Cliff Richards and Shadows, various English artists had a hard time, but the Beatles just brought it all together. So
Jerry, what do you think, man?
I mean, again, I you know how I feel about talking hypothetically, man. It's just I don't know. I don't. Who knows? I mean, things worked out the way they did.
Led Zeppelin? No, I'm joking.
Led Zeppelin. It's like Led Zeppelin. It's like, how long would Led Zeppelin continue? The Bonham didn't die, or would Metallica be different sounding if Cliff Burton was still alive? Would they have gone that poppy ass way? It's just, hypotheticals are just hard to discuss for me because, I don't know, just things happen the way they did, unfortunately, with the Beatles. And fuck Chapman. You're right, Charles. That guy can go fuck himself forever in eternal hell. But but in all fairness, I'll talk about the Beatles. I don't think they would have. I don't know, man. I just didn't see it happen between all four of them.
All three of them were working together. You had George. John would have joined those three, dude.
Page and Plant worked together on something, but it wasn't Led Zeppelin.
Because Bonham wasn't there. That's why.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You had those three working together, not all four of them. So,
John was dead.
Well, I'm just saying, it's hard to talk hypothetically. So I'm giving you my point hypothetically.
I agree with Charles. I think they would have got back together, and I think it would have been awesome.
But I think
fuck Mark David Chapman.
People would have dug it because I remember the night Lennon got murdered, and everybody and their mothers, was outside doing candlelight vigils. I mean, the popularity, in 1980 was it still is today, but 1980 it was still fucking huge. So
well, it was right before Double Fantasy came out. Unless I'm mistaken, right? Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah. But I mean, hypothetically, how I feel about talking about that. So
all right. So I'll get to you, Lou, on this subject. What do you think about it?
It's touchy because would Queen still be around today if Freddie was alive?
No,
would
that's what I mean, yeah.
Would Pantera be around today if Dime and Vinny were still alive?
No.
I don't think those wounds would have healed.
I don't know.
I think that with the Beatles, I think they realized that the time that they were around where they made the biggest impact, I think they would have just left it alone. Not to say that they wouldn't have made appearances together and go, hey, we're still friends, but it's I look at it this way. My favorite band of all time is Black Sabbath. When I heard that they reunited with Dio, I was ecstatic. When Dio passed away, I was heartbroken. When the original four reunited, again, I was grateful. When Sharon booted Bill Ward out of it and they released that piece of shit album 13, I said it should have been left dead and buried. It was a time and a place and a magical moment. Lightning does not always strike twice in the same place. I'm not one of those types of music fans where I go, oh, I wish those guys would get back together. Like I'm a huge UFO fan. I discovered UFO when my brother had the Misdemeanor cassette. And who was the guitarist on that? Atomic Tommy M, Tommy McClendon. But who's the most famous guitarist from UFO? Michael Schenker. Am I glad Schenker's doing his own thing? Yes, musical mitosis is a good thing. sometimes you need to separate to get the best product out of yourself. So I would have been just happy with the Beatles material that they did give us. And, you know, I mean, yeah, when I was a kid, I was ecstatic that Kiss reunited, but after having seen the concert that I did in 2000, the farewell tour,
Right.
I was like, you know what? Leave well enough alone.
Lou, I
That's just
feel like
my
you're
opinion.
Lou, I feel
I'd
like
rather move forward than look back.
I feel like you're sitting inside my head and saying the
You
things
just
like
talked to
like
3 Chris nerds on this episode. Oh,
yeah,
joy.
that's like
I
literally
love Kiss, Mark.
I
Don't
know
get me
you
wrong.
do. I've just
Dude,
noticed there's 3 of
that's
them
like
on here.
but I mean that's literally my take on Kiss. Like as far as I'm concerned, that band's been dead since 2000. Everything that's happened since 2000 has just been some other shit show that doesn't matter. And when I take into consideration, like I take what you just said about UFO or like the Beatles or just leave well enough alone, my favorite band in the world is Rush. And I know everybody keeps clamoring
Good
for
taste.
like, well, Mike Portnoy can play the Rush stuff or this guy or that guy. No, and Getty and Alex have like put the kibosh on that over and over again. And
They should make an album called Lifeson and Lee.
no, I think at best, if you ever want to give the Rush fans something, give them like, because they didn't do the farewell tour, they didn't do all that crap. Like, and this is what the Beatles would have done. This is what Led Zeppelin has done. You get together, like you do a show or a thing or like this, that, and the other. Like, if Rush wants to do something, do like some big ass show in LA or some big ass show in Toronto. Get like a slew of drummers, one big tribute show or 3 big tribute shows, and just done. Don't record a new album. Don't get a new drummers. Like, stop it. And the same thing.
I think that Taylor Hawkins tribute that happened, I thought it brought great closure to the memories of Neil Peart and Eddie Van Halen.
I agree, dude.
The fact that Wolfgang went up and did On Fire and Hot for Teacher at one show, and another one he did Panama and Hot for Teacher. You know what? Perfect send off for Eddie. The fact that Alex and Getty got up with Danny Carey, one of my favorite drummers ever, and did that awesome rendition of Closer to the Heart. You know what? Again, that's lightning in a bottle. That's magic.
I agree, man.
Stop with telling Wolfie, this poor guy. And by the way, I saw him open up for Metallica. He was amazing.
I saw him open up for Alter Bridge. Yes, he is amazing.
I love Alter Bridge, and
I'm going to see Metallica next week. So
cool. Everyone's tweeting him, stop living on your father's name, or why aren't you covering more Van Halen? Leave the kid alone.
Right. Let him live his life, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Like if music, I mean, I appreciate people who, love music, but some of y'all gotta stop. You're killing the business.
Yeah. The new album is really, it's harder than the first one. Mammoth 2 is really fucking hard.
Yeah, I haven't heard the new one yet. I didn't love the first one, to be honest, but I like his playing. I didn't see his dad's songwriting. Not that I'm looking for him to be his dad, but Eddie has such a he's just so good at songwriting that like I was expecting.
Listen to his lead playing on a new album, dude.
His leads are fine. That's not the problem. It's not that. Listen, I say the same thing about again, Dream Theater is one of my favorite bands. Eddie Van Halen, same thing, same type of thing. Virtuosic players, there are a million virtuosic players out there that are great technical players. It's about the songwriting. If you can't write a good song, I don't give a fuck how fast you can play.
His songwriting on there, and my favorite lyricist is Neil Peart.
Yeah,
so
right.
He ain't no Neil Peart, but he ain't bad. He's better than Sammy Hagar, if you guys say that.
No, I'm talking about musically, man. I'm not. Eddie never.
The music's really good.
I mean, he might have
evolved a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I expect.
I think Guthrie Govan is a great guitarist. Do I think he could write an Eddie Van Halen type song?
Nope.
No.
I agree.
It's out of his wheelhouse, and that's fine.
That is fine, absolutely, and that's not what I'm expecting. Like, you want to hear, Guthrie Govan, same thing. Yeah, if you want to hear great Guthrie Govan, listen to The Raven That Refused to Sing by Steven Wilson. That's my favorite. Anyway, sorry.
All right, man. Let's get to the next story.
Autism.
Guns N' Roses. Well, they leaked a track. I just want to know why every time they have a new something coming out, it gets leaked before it comes out. Somebody in their camp doing it, they need to do some investigations on this shit. But yeah, I sent you guys the song Perhaps, and it was taken down. And then Chris sent me Perhaps again, and that was taken down. And then I found a little snippet of it. I heard it. I'll let you guys know. I want to know what Charles thinks of it, though.
That's called publicity. I just don't, but at this age, I think that's intentionally done because it was supposed to be out Friday anyway. And then it leaked on Friday. And then there's always something with that group. It sounded like a crappy version of a Chinese Democracy song with Use Your Illusion type feel to it.
Agreed.
I am not a Dizzy Reed fan. I don't like that piano through it, but maybe it'll grow on me. But I still think it's a poor song. I don't think it's going to make a damn difference, though. Just like Metallica's mediocre 72 seasons made no difference on ticket sales. Guns N' Roses, a legacy act. I mean, they're saying there's a new album coming out. Or not coming out, they're working on it. We'll see. I don't believe it, but we'll see. I heard it. I'm not that floored by it. It does. It sounds like a Use Your Illusion version of a Chinese Democracy song. And I like Chinese Democracy, but Hard School and Absurd sucked.
Oh, yeah, they did.
One might be slightly better than those two. I wasn't wild about Slash's solo on it either.
I liked it way better than Absurd and Old School. I thought it was like actually pretty cool. And you're right, Chinese Democracy meets Use Your Illusion. And I like that. I like Chinese Democracy. I like most of Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. So I agree with you, but I think it might grow on you. I like that piano. I'm a piano dude. I like hearing like honky tonk or cool keyboards and his band uses a lot of keyboards, freaking really cool. But Jerry, what do you think about that?
Yeah, when you first sent me this, I go, "Oh God, do I have to actually listen to this?" But when I did, I was actually pleasantly surprised. It wasn't the best thing they ever did, but I liked it better than I thought I would. I mean, there's a lot of by accent whining in the song, but other than that, I kind of liked it, man. It wasn't bad. It wasn't that bad. It does sound a lot like the Chinese Democracy era, yeah. But yeah, I didn't mind it at all, man. So good for them. I never thought they could write another song again without Izzy Stradlin, but I guess they can write something decent at least together. So that's good. So I didn't hate it.
What about you, Chris?
Perhaps they should just write more songs that sounds like the chorus, because I thought the chorus was okay, but other than that, I can do without it. I don't know. Like I feel like Guns N' Roses should stay where they were, like in the 90s, and just keep doing what they're doing and just go out and play their songs. And I mean, I don't begrudge anybody to make new music and whatever. But I think they need to know. So I don't know. It sounds like they're trying to modernize their sound a little bit, but not enough. It's a veiled attempt at best. And it does sound like I agree with what Charles had said originally, that it sounds like a leftover from Chinese Democracy. It doesn't sound like a complete song. And yeah, it just sounds like a poor attempt just in general. It just doesn't, I don't know. I didn't like it. I guess like Jerry, I don't hate it, but I probably never listen to it again.
Exactly. If I never heard it again, I'd be fine.
Now, you want to talk about a lightning in a bottle band? That's Guns N' Roses. I mean, when they did Appetite, they were actually living on the street. Izzy was pimping hoes, all kinds of stuff going on, and living that life. And then when they got money, that changed everything. So,
I mean, I like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I like Lies. I like all the first like 3-4 albums. I thought it was wonderful, but
But they just, it's changed. Things changed once they got rich and became huge, and that makes sense. I mean, Noel Gallagher said it. He could never write stuff the way he wrote on maybe an album I'll talk about later, because he's not starving anymore.
Yeah.
And once you have money and everything changes, your perspective changes, and that makes sense to me.
You're not hungry anymore. Lou, what do you think about that? Did you hear any of the Guns N' Roses?
I heard the clip that you sent me, and all I gotta say was meh. I mean, look, I mean, Appetite for Destruction came out when I was 7 years old, and I was blown away by the grit of that album. And I thought Use Your Illusions 1 and 2, you know, I mean, half the albums I liked, the other half I didn't care for. I
Put
feel
it
like, you
together.
know, if you had combined songs from both those albums, you would have had a perfect album. But you know, I thought it was a good attempt at a double album. I got to be honest with you. Um, when Duff and Slash returned to Guns N' Roses, I was like, yeah, that's great for people who want to shell out the loot to go see a show like that. I was more excited about Slash and what he was doing with Miles Kennedy, because I had seen them open for Aerosmith and I was blown away. Anastasia is a
From
better
the first
song.
album. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, is a better song than whatever this was. And that's just my opinion.
Whatever this was.
That song rules. People get irritated at Miles's voice. I don't know why. That guy sings amazing. I've seen him live with Alter Bridge, man.
I think he's a great
I seen him live with Slash headlining with him and his band. They were great, man.
Mhm.
I
I'm not-
seen Miles in both, and it awesome.
Like, I'm not denying Creed was more popular. I prefer Miles's voice with Mark Tremonti's riffs than I do
Absolutely.
Scott Stapp's.
Absolutely.
I
and-
agree with you too, and I
and-
like Creed too. So yeah.
And that's fine that you do. I mean, you know, I just remember the 90s was a very dark time for modern rock radio.
Yes, it was.
It was interesting. I'm
gonna tell you one thing. A band that got went total pop crap on their second album was Train. If you listen to that first Train album, besides Meet Virginia, they got some fucking Zeppelin riffs. The band could fucking play, and they do Zeppelin live, and they kill it. But then they had to do fucking shit like fucking San Francisco or whatever, the fucking poppy shit. But that band could play. They sold out after the first album. I just wanted to say that about Train. That first album
Train?
was riff-tastic. Train.
You're talking about Train?
Train. The first album was a fucking rock and roll.
The drops of Jupiter
Yeah.
band.
Drops of Jupiter was the second album. That album went shit. That was like pop. What the fuck? It's like when Sammy Hagar went into Van Halen for some of you guys. It was like the first album was rock. What is this?
I was under the impression you liked Sammy, Mark. I don't know why.
No, but I know how you guys feel, because that's happened to some of my bands that changed singers.
Hard
He
pass
only,
for me.
but he
Hard pass
loves
for me.
Nine Arm. He loves that pop era.
Hard pass for me on Train. Sorry.
Well, listen. I'm gonna send you a song called Train.
Please don't.
Listen to the
You
song.
need to listen to it, damn it.
You don't need to listen to it. I said I'm going to send it to him. I didn't say you need to listen. If you
So-
want to,
I
check it
changed
out.
my mind. I love Train, dude. I love
No,
him.
no. It's a blues Zeppelin hard rock song called Train.
No, the
You
dude
can-
can sing. The dude, what's his name? Pat something or another.
Monahan,
Dude's got a
yeah.
good voice.
They
But
could
other
do
than
Zeppelin. They
there's-
could do Zeppelin perfect, and you would
Well,
cry.
Let's go with it, Jerry. They can do Zeppelin, man. Better than Zeppelin.
No, no. Oh, fuck off. That's like
Look,
saying. All right.
I don't
Hey,
think there's
dude,
anything
Nine
wrong
Armed
with the
Def Leppard. Yes. Oh, wait a minute. Like that. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a rock band going pop as long as they do it well. I mean, I thought Fuel's first album, Sunburn, was great, and then the second one came out with Hemorrhage in My Hands. That song was huge for them. But you know,
absolutely.
that there were some rocking songs on that second album. I thought a band that mixed rock and pop very well on their album Lemon Parade was Tonic.
Oh, I
And
love Tonic.
And
dude.
I wish that they had been given more of a spotlight.
If you could see, I love.
yeah.
Don't get a
that fucking
copyright
band.
strike now, Mark.
Love that.
There's,
fucking band.
there's a few like Stone Temple Pilots, like their first album was significantly heavier than anything that came after, and I liked everything that came after. I liked all their stuff.
Yeah, same here.
So,
But
yeah.
Core sounds nothing like everything else that came
right,
after it.
absolutely. I was just listening to Core
I hope
the other
that's
day,
not
and I was like, God damn, this is
on
heavy.
You guys' list.
Big Empty, though, you know, because it was on the Crow soundtrack, that was kind of the bridge between, you know,
Yeah,
Core and what
love
came
Purple.
after.
I like
Wow.
Purple better than Core, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
cool. Purple's a great album.
Yeah.
Great album.
Well,
Nothing wrong with Core, though. I mean, yeah, nothing.
Well, I just wanted to end the BS with Kelly Hansen of Foreigner blast bands who don't give a real live performance, tell them to go fuck themselves. What do you think about that, Charles?
So bored of this.
Scab Foreigner stepping up for the rights of all. Hey,
Hey, at least they're
Marc would be
live.
proud of him. I know that, man. I know that. Whichever. Yeah, I agree. But if the people are dumb enough to go see Kiss with tapes and do whatever, good for them as well. Enjoy yourself. I'm not doing it, But yeah, I would rather see these completely live. I like mistakes. We say this every week. If you support tapes, good for you. It's your money. If you don't support tapes, good for you. I know I won't support tapes, so I agree with
Scott Ian supports tapes. What the fuck?
That's your right. If that's what that's what you want to do. I've heard that point of view that they got to do now it's brands. I mean, gigs are so important. And I get why some defend that use. They got to worry about people come and pay for those tickets. And they live off that. And I like sales, even though Taylor Swift sold 110 million albums in an era where we don't buy physical media.
It's pretty impressive. It's pretty fucking impressive, I have to admit.
Massively impressive. So, I mean, some artists are getting sales, but, those legacy acts like that, they need ticket sales. So maybe they're concerned with that. I don't blame Paul Stanley for using tapes. I'd rather he quit.
Yeah,
I'd rather
me both
quit. I'd rather Ace quit. I'd rather they all retire, go chill.
Go back to Kiss.
They're the main in Motley Crue, same way. Quit, please quit. So I agree with the guy from Foreigner, totally.
I've seen him with Foreigner. He puts on a great show. But he was in a
banner.
big
guy. I agree with him, but if you want to go see these groups and they're going to see lip sync, and that's on that person.
Yeah, true.
I don't care.
But he was in a good band called Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Great. Hurricane ruled. But Jerry, what do you think about this?
Well, I mean, I agree with what Charles said, man. He wants to see a bunch of tapes and shit. Now, if you're going to see a pop act, and just say you mentioned Taylor Swift, of course she's going to lip sync a lot of her stuff. She's performing.
She doesn't though.
She does. She does.
That's Britney Spears, dude.
She doesn't really. Taylor Swift does not.
But she's performing the songs, and we'll just say they're performing the songs. But a rock band, man, a rock band should play all live, dude. In my opinion, dude, man. I don't care if you fuck up and make a mistake, man. That's fucking rock and roll, dude. I mean, sometimes we've lost that in the last 30 years, in my opinion, man. That fucking pure raw live energy, man. And I know there's still some bands out there that are playing like club that still bring it, but man, I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to see an era of great fucking live rock music ever again, dude. Shame. It's all going to be tapes, fucking
Milli Vanilli.
Whatever. Yep.
Hey, but I just want to say something, man. I know with tapes, we saw Queensryche with Todd LaTorre opening up for Judas Priest. And he was singing so fucking perfect. I looked at my friend. I think the motherfucker's using tapes. And all of a sudden he goes, ah. I go, okay, he's live. He messed up on a lyric. I go, okay, dude, he was fucking kicking ass. I thought he was perfect. But what do you think about that, Chris?
Dead horse, my foot, kicking dead horse. This is such an overplayed, over discussed topic at this point. I'm just beyond over this. My whole take is I don't give a crap whether you're lip syncing, playing to tapes or whatever. Just don't lie about it. Like, it drove me banana sandwich when Gene and Paul were like when they come out and rip people for using tapes, when we're all going, what? Like, you? Like, are you kidding? Like that would be like Vince Neil being like, I'm a great singer and whatever. Like, first off, anyone who says, and I'm sorry, like, you're saying like, oh, well, they're so perfect that like, I bet they're using tapes. Okay, I can possibly buy that that's a theory that you're having. But if someone is using tapes, you can't tell the difference. I don't care unless they blatantly fuck up and you can see it happening. The sound is the same. So I will be honest and tell you, if I found out that Vince Neil all of a sudden sounded good live, I would go see
I would
Motley Crue.
question it.
No, I would go see Motley Crue because
I
they
would
put on
question
a hell of a show otherwise. I just don't want to
It
listen
was
to
a good
two
show. It was a
because
good
I don't
show.
want to listen to 2 hours of hiya. Like I'm not interested in some fat bloated guy walking around just like heavy breathing his way through a set. I
My
would rather
wife
listen.
said he sounded like a dying hyena.
Yeah, it's awful. I would rather him fake it till he makes it. Have a little backing track behind him, have some live voice here and there overwood. But like if they ask him after the show, hey Vince, will you play into a backing track? He's like, yeah, I have some help. It's all good. It's what it is. But you guys are here for the show, right? There's no lack of integrity because you recorded the music. It's not like you're lip syncing to someone else. That would be worse. If Frank Sinatra's voice came out of Smoking in the Boys Room, that would be a problem. But that's not what's happening here. So I have no problem with it. I'm just tired of it. And I'm a singer myself. As a singer, as a former performer, as someone who used to be in bands and try to tour and try and live the life, I wish I had some backing tapes back in the day. It might have helped me. So I have no problem with this. And I'm just, honestly, I'm tired of hearing and talking about it. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And just one last thing, this idea that like live shows and we'll never have live great music anymore. I've been to nearly 700 shows in my life. And out of my top 10 all-time favorite shows, probably 7 or 8 of them are in the last 20 years. So, and probably the majority of those 7 were in like the last 5 to 10 years. So live music is plenty alive.
It's around, but it's
plenty
not
well.
huge, man.
No, it's very well. You just have to.
Be as huge.
Now you just got to look in the right places, man. You want to see Foreigner, or you want to see Kiss, or you want to see these old acts sound good when they're 70. They're fucking 70. They're not going to sound good. They just not going to sound good
Some
anymore.
Some of them do sound good though, still. But
Glenn Hughes.
dude, I disagree with you, man. I think the days of great rock and roll in America.
Glenn Hughes still sounds amazing, man.
Some of them. Styx is the only band Styx is the only old band that I have seen recently that still sounds just vocally tight. Just they all play the
Night Ranger also.
One of my favorite bands. One of my favorite bands, Chris. One of my favorite bands. But that last album is.
Oh God, get off that.
But I mean live. But I'm talking about live. I'm talking about
live. We gotta
live.
review that and get it over with.
No, I mean,
sound tight as shit.
Tommy's a fucking top-rate performer, dude. He's awesome. But I can't stand Lawrence Gowan.
I love Lawrence Gowan. Not a solo stuff. Though.
They sound great live. I don't watch a lot of live acts. Like I just bought tickets to see another newer band called Vola, and it'll be like the second time I'm seeing them, and they are fucking like, and they're live as can be, and they're fucking tastic. And if you are into newer music, you're going to see a lot of live acts. You just have to search them out. Live music is alive and well.
And a lot of these rock and roll bands, when they do a bigger festival, it's usually 5 or 6 bands together, man. That's I don't know, dude. I just don't see it anymore, man. I hope I'm wrong, but
it's what you're looking for. I think that's my take here, is that it's what you're looking for. It's the band you're looking for. You want
the band I'm seeing in 2 weeks actually sold out out here at a pretty good sized amphitheater.
And that is
Ghost.
Ghost kills. Ghost is great live. I've seen
they're
them
one of
like
the only
3
bands.
times.
Yeah, you should put Aerosmith next to that Rush poster, not the Ghost. That's kind of defiling them for me.
Aerosmith, fucking rapist. All right, anyway.
I don't like Ghost next to Rush. It's like giving me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. Why don't like Star Trek on anybody's wall? What's Lou got on there?
I got the Beatles back there. Yeah, Lou, what do you think about it?
Well, first off, Scott Ian has no credibility with me, because if I had him on Roundside Review, the first question I would ask him, how did it feel to rip off Dan Nelson and release worship music without giving him any credit? Talk about lying to the fans.
I love that album now.
I do too, but I think Dan Nelson deserves most of the credit for that.
Can the second question be, why have you completely ignored Sound of White Noise, which is like one of the best albums of the 90s?
John Bush is going to go out and do that stuff, he said.
Good, because Sound of White Noise is my favorite Anthrax album.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Getting back to the subject. Look, I've played in cover bands where there was live sequencing for keyboards because they didn't have a keyboard player. We played the songs live, bass, drums, guitar, 2 vocalists, Rush used sequencing and backing tracks for backup vocals, because that wasn't Alex really singing into the mic. Alex doesn't sound like Getty. I mean,
That wasn't till
I'm sorry,
Amy
Alex
Mann
doesn't sound like
singing time.
Getty.
That wasn't Amy Mann singing time stats. That was Getty
Yeah.
hitting her on the keyboard.
So, you know, and you know, I saw video footage of Asking Alexandria, who's one of the bands that have come out in the past 15 years that I'm a huge fan of. They did have backing tracks, but the drums, the bass, the two guitars, and the vocalist were still performing live. See, what people need to understand is that live shows are run like circuses. Like, you know, now comes the dancing bear. Okay, now comes the juggling lions. You know what I mean? That's a ridiculous statement, but basically it's like every concert that happens, unions force the bands, you got to be on at this time, you got to get off on that time. If you go into overtime, it's $10,000 per minute. So a lot of these bands have to rehearse their set so that they're on at a set time and they're off at a set time. So a lot of them have to use backing tracks in their in-ear monitors so they keep on schedule, because again, it's all logistics. And on top of that, the less overhead that you have, you know, if you can replicate your sound through amp plugins and run them into the PA so that you hear them in your front of house monitors, the audience hears them, you know, and if you don't have to shell out thousands of dollars on cabinets and stuff like that, you know, it's at this point it's easier for the bands. But the difference is, if you're still playing the material live, like if you could hear a botch, then who cares if you're using backup tracks? But I'm not going to drop money to see someone, you know, lip syncing or not even playing with their stuff plug-in. To me, that's kind of insulting, and that's not that's not what I would pay to see. I may as well go to a drag bar to see, you know, someone singing Cher's "I Found Someone." You know what I mean? Like, that's not a live concert. That's not a live show. Does Severed Angel, you know, we've been rehearsing because, you know, we would love to eventually perform. And we know that we have 45 minutes on you know, to be on stage. So we kind of need to sequence everything so that, okay, this is where we come in. This is where we come in. Wayne, do you hear the click? You know? And when we play it live, we're playing it as we did on the record. So again, if you're playing it live, even if you have backing tracks, you're not cheating anybody out of their hard-earned money. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think Michael Sweet said something. If you want to hear Yahweh live, we can't afford to bring a whole choir here to sing the opening thing of Yahweh. We're going to have it on tape, but everything else will be live. So,
yeah, I mean, you know, I there's cheating the fans, and then there's trying to replicate enough of what they know and love about the song to them, but you're still performing it. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I wasn't angry that Ronnie Radke, you know, canceled a performance of Falling in Reverse because they lost their laptops. That's how they ran the light shows, and they were accused of, you know, being a miming band. You know, look, I know there's a lot of people out there that like Eddie Trunk. I'm not one of them, because, you know, he was the first to jump on the whole, oh, you hear this? They can't go on stage because they need their laptops. Yeah, man, their lighting is ran by their laptops. Okay. And then, like I said, they have to stick to a schedule.
I
But they
mean,
still perform.
I don't love Eddie Trunk either. I think he has literally 2 to 3 topics he talks to, and if he doesn't, the dude's a hack. But with that being said, I recently saw Falling in Reverse, and I could definitely make a case that I'm seeing some shit coming out of Ronnie Radke that's not coming out of Ronnie Radke. Okay, now,
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I
it's
stand
just,
corrected then.
well, it's just based on what I've seen. And now I won't testify to that. I wouldn't dare make a bold accusation. And obviously, you don't want to do a half-ass show. Like, again, I would cancel a show if we lost, like, if it's an integral piece of the equipment, whether it has to do with the sequencing or their backing tracks or their light show. Like, they should cancel the show and they should come back and be like, okay, we're going to do the full show now. Like, this is the full show. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watched when I was in California, it was during the drought. Like, Iron Maiden canceled one of their shows because they couldn't do pyro because it was during a drought. So fire marshals were like, well, can't do it. So, whatever.
Wasn't that
So
in Devore, California?
up north, NorCal,
Oh,
Mountain View. It was like 10 years ago. It was a long time ago.
Shoreline Amphitheater, right?
Yep.
Love that
So-
place. Man.
Yeah. So they came back, and when it was, so, like, I understand circumstances. I'm not trying to call out Falling in Reverse necessarily for that particular event, but I will say, there was a lot of this weird shit going on. It was like, as a singer myself, I understand vocal technique and mic technique, and that wasn't it.
Right. I mean, look, I understand that I'm in the minority, and that's fine, but I can assure you, the moment I have no use of these, I won't go on stage anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
If
That's
I can't
totally
play
fair.
with, if I can't do what I do with my hands the way I'm supposed to, then I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to cheat anyone.
you're
So
gonna be like Neil Peart did. He didn't want to cheat anybody. He left when he knew he couldn't do it anymore.
yeah, like,
Respect.
I mean, I'd rather just like play at home acoustically and, like, play my daughter to sleep then.
There
I
you
get
go.
the same satisfaction from doing that than I do recording with Severed Angel. It's equal to me. So
Tell
That's where
Jerry
it's
to
at.
stop selling his guitars. Tell him it's stupid.
Jerry, I just sold a bunch of my stuff today.
Oh,
I'm cutting back. so-
I got rheumatoid
That
arthritis.
backfired badly.
I got
Yeah, I mean-
rheumatoid arthritis, man. I can't really play well anymore. So I'd rather have them with somebody that can play it rather than just sitting around. You know what I
I
mean?
Well,
understand.
that just backfired.
Wayne wants me to sell my Steinberger. I'm like, no, I'm not going to sell the Steinberger. I love it. So
Yeah, it hurt selling my Strat, man. I had that thing for like 27 years, man. It just hurt me. But
Yeah.
if somebody's playing it now, I haven't been able to play, in years.
I hear.
So.
I mean,
All right.
I was playing Les Pauls for years, but I was doing like 3-hour cover shows, and I'm like telling my wife all the time, I'm like, oh, my fucking back, I can't do it anymore. So I switched to Strats, but I removed, like, the stock pickups, the single coils, and the tremolo, and modified it, and now it plays like a beast, and I can run around back and forth with it, and do some crazy shit with it. So but I get it. Sometimes wear and tear, it's too much. I understand. It's
You got
it's horrible.
I'm keeping my Ovation acoustic, but everything else I'm probably going to get rid of. So.
You got
It's a
hot
shame.
rails on it, Lou?
I'm sorry.
You got hot rails on it?
No, I have the DiMarzio Super Distortion S on both my Strats, and I'm getting one Strat modified right now with a stacked single coil for the neck position, because I like single coils on the neck position, but I wanted it more noiseless, so that's what I'm doing for that.
Cool.
All right, man. Charles, announce what we're doing, man.
Well, once again, our top 11 debut albums. So we just threw it out there 40 minutes ago. So let's get into it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I want you to introduce it because it was your idea. So, all right, let's get into it. Let's start with Jerry. What's your number 11?
Oh, since we talked about these guys a little earlier, let's get them. Let's talk about them now. I guess. I mean, you can't argue what a great freaking debut album this is, man. I mean, serious, man. It's a fucking one of the best ever. I mean, probably, and it's probably the only, like Charles said, they're living off this album, and they can because it was that great of an album. So that's my number 11. Appetite for Destruction.
I'll go to my number 11 because I got to go take a quick whiz real quick. So I'll go. My number 11 is from one of my favorite artists of all time, Billy Squier, Tale of the Tape. Fucking love that album. The freaking I Got the Big Beat. That's a hip hop beat that's making the millions of dollars right there, man. I think that's one of the best freaking. I love Billy Squier, man. I even like that new shit he put out.
Oh, it was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, I know you guys hated it. But that's my number 11. I'll go to you, Chris, and I'll be right back.
So for my so as usual, I can't just make a normal list because I can't ever nail down my favorites of anything. It's the pitfalls of being an autistic music fan with roughly a million different likes and different bands that I love and different artists that I love. So what I did is I took all the genres and all the things that I generally love, not all the genres, but most of the things that I generally love. And I picked what I thought were either the defining or some of the most important debut albums of that particular genre or subgenre. So, and I did them in chronological order as opposed from 11 to 1. They'll be 11 to 1, but in chronological order. So from 1966, possibly, if not the first true art rock or avant-garde record, but definitely, possibly, well, I think definitely the most popular at its time, and would be Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Freak Out. This is also a protest album. It was just a white dude coming out and being like, one of the most famous lyrics from this album is, I ain't black, but sometimes I really wish I wasn't white. So Frank Zappa came out and 160 albums to this date still. This is just a wacky album, full on avant-garde. Freak Out by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention.
Good one.
Nice. So Lou, what's yours? Number 11.
So I'm gonna be bouncing around genres. I discovered this band when I was an operations coordinator over at MTV. Like we used to air, we used to broadcast. They still do, but I was broadcasting to different countries such as Brazil, Puerto Rico, Argentina. There was we had a lot of channels there, and I thought it was cool that they had an equal love for metal as they did alternative pop and rock and hip hop. But there was one band that really stuck out. It was this trio from England called Keane. And I remember my wife, at the time we were dating, she heard the single "Somewhere Only We Know," and I kind of get a little choked up thinking about this album because I remember where I was the first time I heard it. It was the first time I took her on a date to my hometown of Astoria, Queens, in New York City, and we were listening to the album the whole time, like driving, to Astoria and then driving her back home to Long Island, and just listening to it, completely blown away by the melodicism. I mean, it's three guys. It's a singer, a keyboardist, and a drummer. And the keyboard player, held down the bass notes with his left hand and, did some gorgeous melodic piano playing with his right. And, there was no pretension about it. And I'm glad to say that I saw them live 3 years later, and when they played the material from this album, it got me right in the feels. So I have to say my number 11 is Hopes and Fears by Keane, and it's an album I still listen to give me ideas for melody, because even though Severed Angel is a metal band, if there's nothing melodic in there, to me the quality goes down. So melody and music is very important to me.
I've heard that name Keen before, but I'm sure if I heard
Keen's
some of the
excellent.
songs, I would recognize them if I heard them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard them too, and I think I've heard it and I
Yeah.
liked it. But you get so much shit, you forget about stuff you wanted to.
The song he
go check
mentioned
out.
somewhere, what was it? I forget the wording.
Somewhere Only We Know.
Yeah, you definitely know that song, guys. Like you've all heard
Probably.
that song. Yeah.
Probably.
By the way, just side note, what part of Long Island is she from?
Hicksville.
Out east, Mastic Beach.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I lived there for 20 plus years. So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
So Charles, what's your number 11?
Short and sweet on mine. Wasn't on last week. The best album from this band, Rush debut album. Number 11. The greatest Rush album ever made. Thank you, WMMS Cleveland 100.7 for unleashing that on the country and the world.
Hey man, when I picked Working Man on there, I thought about you, man. I mentioned it, but this is for Charles, man. Working Man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Great, great, great album. Huh, Mark?
It's my last Rush album. I'm sorry. Neil Peart is like who's your rock god, Charles? The Beatles, right?
Amongst others.
Well, so when Neil Peart is my rock god, so it's like, yeah, I love the Rustly stuff, but I like Neil Peart, so I leaned
love
over
that debut album.
That's great. I love it too. I have it right there on my wall. Rush debut album, and I got Rush here, and I got Rush behind me. Rush is all around me. It's like got Rush bobbleheads over there. So I love all Rush. That is a great pick.
Thank you.
I'm glad you picked it because I didn't pick it because I knew one of you guys would. I
Go.
know Chris is going to have to pick it. If he doesn't, I'm going to be surprised. So, but then we get to our number 10, Jerry.
Number 10 is a band that came out in between kind of glam and the grunge era, I guess. A brother band. I think you know what you're talking about.
Nelson?
Black Crow, Shake the Money. Yeah. This is such a fucking great record, dude. From
Great album.
Finish, man. Twice as hard, Jealous Again. Fucking She Talks to Angels, man. What a great freaking song that is, man. Love this band. Saw them on this tour. They didn't really sound great live when they first came out, but I know they've cleaned up their act live since then. I would have loved to have seen them on their last tour, but
I seen them twice, dude, in the last 2 years. They're
But,
amazing.
this is like one of my all-time favorite albums, and that's my number 10.
Yeah, and that was on my list. Jerry's gonna pick that, and it'll get to me. So I'm gonna start with Cheap Trick's debut album. This band does not get enough love, and I wasn't sure any of you guys would pick Cheap Trick.
They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How are they not getting enough love?
They should have been in there a long time ago, like
Well,
Rush.
So should a lot of bands.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. But the thing is, dude, they open for bands still, dude. They don't get. It's like they do
They
go on
don't
their little
care.
headlining tours. I know they don't
if
care,
the headline or not.
but
They're
they
not
should.
just play.
But to me, they should be selling out stadiums like Guns N' Roses. That's my point.
Oh, one of the best live bands ever.
Yes, because Cheap Trick could change up their set every second. They don't need a rehearse. It's a fucking great band. So I take Cheap Trick's debut album.
I agree. I like Cheap Trick.
And in your number 10, Chris.
So continuing on my trek of highly influential genre defining albums, 1969, the precursor to punk rock, the influencers of such of the entire like punk garage rock thing, all the way on down to Rage Against the Machine, and that would be the Motor City 5, MC5, Kick Out the Jams, 1969. The album, who puts out a fucking a live album as your debut album? I mean,
That
that's
was live?
just, yes,
Oh,
that's
shit.
just
Yeah.
that's just the balls on you to do something like that. It's a full-on protest album. The album opens up with them going, brothers and sisters, I want to see, like, the whole thing is just ramped up from the word go, and I was hooked from the second I heard this album. MC5, Kick Out the Jams.
Good choice.
Okay, what about let's see, Lou, what's your number 10?
My college radio days, I was looking for something that was not Limp Bizkit or Crazy Town and stuff like that. I mean, I loved Deftones, I still do. I loved Korn, but I wasn't into Bizkit, Crazy Town. I wasn't into Cold Chamber. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't like. And then all of a sudden, it's like we started getting material from independent labels like Trustkill and Ferret. And I remember coming back from a holiday. I went to Greece that summer. This is 2000. And I came back, and there was a package from Ferret Records, and inside was this album that had this crazy artwork on it. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" And apparently, the bassist Mike D'Antonio was the guy that he was the art director of the album. And he's done tons of records for other bands like Shadows Fall and All That Remains. And then I'm like, Mike D'Antonio, where have I heard that name before? And then I remember there was a band called Overcast that came out of Boston, this hardcore band. And I was really into the hardcore scene, still a hardcore kid at heart. And, it was his new band, Killswitch Engage. And from the moment I put that fucker on, I was just like, this is the best album of 2000. And it was, to me, it was like that perfect combination of melodic death metal from Sweden with hardcore. And it was such a game changer for me. And Killswitch is a band that I'm proud to say that I've seen them live multiple times. In my college radio days, I actually emailed Mike back and forth. And the fact that they love their fans and appreciate them and actually reciprocate the love that they get back. I mean, what more could you want from a band who, just came out of nowhere? It was just, it was a real game changer for me.
Which vocalist do you prefer?
I think what Howard did End of Heartache, took them, it made them stars, definitely. But I don't think they could have gone to that point without Jesse. So I think this is a case where both singers are of equal importance.
Cool. All right. Excellent. I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
Nice pick.
Charles, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is gonna go pretty along the lines close to what Chris picked. I think another forerunner of punk, also a forerunner of glam metal. There's a lot of bands that owed this band a debt of gratitude. Be on the lookout for a review coming soon. The New York Dolls debut album. Absolutely love that album. I'm growing to be more fond of Johnny Thunder's solo work. And I debated putting LAMF on, but because I think that's a great album, but it wouldn't have been that without the New York Dolls. And I get it. I don't know why some people really, but that's, I guess, musical taste, and I can't account for that. So some people really can't stand them, and other people really, really dig them. And I happen to be in the really, really dig them camp. I think I still think that's their strongest album, but they've had some good work after that as well. But to me, there's not even a one dog track on that album. So, and that was hugely influential on many, many, many groups.
What's your number? That is, I don't want to give up too much away because we have a review coming up a few weeks later on New York Dolls debut album. So I don't want to give up what I think about it, but you already did, but nobody knows what I think yet. So I might.
Well, if I picked it, that means I like it. So
yeah. I personally along the same lines. I personally deliberated that one myself, and I came up with a along the same lines. But yeah, we'll get to mine in a minute. But it's a great album, great call, Charles.
And then when we get to your number 9, Jerry.
Number 9 is an album, which, as they were recording this album, the next door, the Beatles were recording the Sgt. Pepper's album. Talking about Pipers of the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd.
I did get that.
Yeah.
I mean, Sid was only with them for 2 albums, but you cannot deny that he was with them in their music and in their what they sang about pretty much all through their career. You know what I mean? This is just a great album. Fucking Astronomy to Mind, man. What a great song that is. Hats off to Voivod for doing the killer ass cover of that song. I mean,
Voivod reference. Man. I love that shit.
Fucking Interstellar Overdrive. It's just so full of cool tunes, man.
Bike.
Bike's kind of goofy, but
it's Sam rules.
Yeah, I mean, it's just full of great tunes. I never appreciated the Sid Barrett era up until 20 years ago. I was always, from what was Gilmore? Obscured by Clouds. Was that his first album? I can't. No, it was on Gummo.
It was on Saucerful.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, I went back eventually, got into Sid stuff, and I'm glad I did, man, because dude had some talent, man. He was pretty inventive in his sound. So yeah, and I had Pink Floyd's one of my top 5 bands, so this had to have made my list. So that's my number 9.
And then I get to my number 9. I'm gonna go back to the 90s, and I'm gonna pick not Oasis. I think a band that was mislabeled as a grunge band, Alice in Chains, Facelift. It's a fucking amazing album. Bleed the Freak, Sunshine. God damn, this album is not a dud. From beginning to end, this is a fucking great fucking album. It's a great metal album. It's a great Black Sabbath album. It's a great debut album. So that is my number 9. And we get to you, Chris. Your number 9.
Jerry Cantrell, the riff master. That guy is he comes up with some of the most creative shit, and it's not even like, it sounds like it's not even that hard. It's just like it's like a half step down, and you're like, what the fuck did he just do?
And he's a great singer. He's a fucking great singer.
Jerry Cantrell blows my fucking mind on it every time I listen to
His
it.
last album is solo album is great.
Yeah, still got it. I mean, Check My Brain to me holds up as anything on Facelift.
Oh man, no, absolutely. I agree with you. I think the second 3 albums hold up against the first 3 albums. They're just like different eras. It's really interesting. Well, I remember when on the newest album, on Rainier Fog, hearing the One You Know, that fucking it just came in with like this dissonant chord, and like, what a sick out. It's just great.
Nobody gives Jerry Cantrell enough fucking love, man. What the fuck? They all give it to Lane. Jerry Cantrell is the fucking architect of that band, and you can hear it now.
And then in addition to that, Sean Kinney might have one of the sickest like grooves any drummers had from the 90s. That guy, he's just so in the pocket, but like his groove is just fantastic. Nothing flashy, just perfect. Anyway, on to my album. Continuing on with my thing, we're gonna give some women some love here, and I deliberated hard on this one, so I'm just gonna mention both of them without getting into great detail about both of them. It'll be my 9A 9B, but I had to, if I was gonna give Joan Jett and the Blackhearts I Love Rock and Roll credit, I had to give the Runaways credit. So I think I love the Joan Jett album as a whole overall more, and that's why I wanted to mention it. But the Runaways, like, it just showed the world that like women can rock hard too, man. It was a hard rock album, and it was 1976, so it was like a boys club. You had like, there was Kiss and Queen and Styx and Journey, and then there were these girls like, hey, look at me. And they had Kiss's manager, which was interesting. So, and
why did they always give the Go-Go's the credit for the first all-female band?
Because they're the first all-male female conceived band with female management.
Yeah, plus they were way more popular too.
I just want to ask that question.
Yeah,
the Runaways were out way before the Go-Go's, so that it always confused me.
Yeah, by about 4 years, but they were way more popular. But
Crowley was involved with the Runaways.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Runaways produced 2 phenomenal solo artists in and of themselves with Lita Ford and Joan Jett. So 1976, the Runaways self-titled debut album. 1981, Joan Jett, I Love Rock and Roll. It's Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Technically, it's their debut album because she technically had a solo record, which was just her name, named Bad Reputation. But I don't think it compares to I Love Rock and Roll. And that's my
Crimson and Clover too. The cover of that was amazing.
Yeah, that's on there. Yeah, it's a good one. Great
one too.
Bits and Pieces is my favorite song on the Joan Jett album. That's a fucking great song.
Nice. And she's still great live, man. Check her out.
I did. I've seen her recently, like 3 years ago, right after COVID.
So what's your number? I saw her on a stadium tour and she kicked ass right before Poison. But what's your number 9, Lou?
First off, I love Joan Jett and I love the Runaways. So good stuff. This was my gateway new wave of British heavy metal band. It wasn't the first album that I heard from them. It's funny because it kind of goes forward then backtracks. Obviously I discovered the Dickinson era first because that's an era that I remember when I was 4 or 5 years old. And then I discovered my brother's other Iron Maiden cassettes where Eddie looked more of like a vicious killer.
Yeah.
In fact, Killers is one of my favorite albums of all time, but that was their second album. So my number 9 favorite debut album, I gotta give it to the original raw produced self-titled Iron Maiden record.
Good album.
If in my opinion, what's that?
It's a good.
It is a good album. I like Bruce better.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not gonna get into this debate over Deanna.
No,
with
I'm not
Davidson.
gonna get over it either. I just
You got suckered
we just did a review of Iron Maiden's debut album, and I like the whole thing. I didn't talk shit about it at all. So
No, I hear you. I mean, it's funny because I think Dennis Stratton and Dave Murray were a great guitar team, although I prefer Adrian Smith with Dave Murray. And it's funny because the album kind of gets like incorrectly mislabeled as punk metal when that's just because the producer, engineer, whatever you want to call him, Will Malone, he was just hitting the record button, reading the newspaper, smoking a pipe, and every time Maiden was done, they were like, "What'd you think?" He was like, "You could do better." It's like, yeah. Unfortunately, they were dealing with an indifferent producer who was just there to collect a paycheck.
that sounds like Rick Rubin in his later years.
We don't talk Rick Rubin, anyway.
Why?
But I mean, like from the opening track of Prowler, through until the final title track, Phantom of the Opera is just a standout Maiden classic. And I tell people, like, if you want to understand what Maiden is all about, listen to Phantom of the Opera, and of course, I prefer the 9-song version, the version with Sanctuary, but that was released only in the United States because Sanctuary was a single separate from the album everywhere else. But in the United States, they didn't do that. They were like, put more on the album just so we could, market it as a full thing. Like we can't release a single, just throw it on there. Track 7, it's fine. And Sanctuary is actually my favorite song on the record, although you can't find Sanctuary now if you're listening to it on streaming media. But me, I own a copy of it on CD from 1998, bitches. So
Physical media rules.
I agree. So yep, I love that first Iron Maiden album.
So what's your number 9, Charles?
Oh, we're gonna skip into me now. All right.
No, it does go to you. I'm putting you last on this whole thing.
Oh, I lost track myself. I was listening to the great analysis of that great Iron Maiden album that we might hear about again. Number 9. I can't believe they're this low, as much as I love this band, but I think I enjoy this album a lot. So that's maybe the reason why, but I still put it lower against some of these. But man, it's kind of blowing my mind. But oh my Lord, Kiss with that debut album. I mean, I think it's like all damn near greatest hits album, basically. A lot of people say that, but it really is. There's so many of their classic cuts on there. I even love Kissin' Time. I'm just so far gone. I'm not as wild about Love Theme from Kiss, though. That's maybe the weakest track on there to me, because I know Acrobat, which I think is far superior, and I wish they would recreate Acrobat or clean that up, do something to clean that up and put out a great version of Acrobat. And but I'm not wild about the production on it, but then again, it lends to the feel of the album, I guess, as well. But my favorite Kiss songs on there: Cold Gin, Long Live Ace Frehley. Just yeah, Kiss debut album had to be on there. I'm just kind of shocked I put it as low as I did, but
I'll
stand by the decision.
I thought that'd be like in your top 5. So
my only issue with that album, honestly, is that every song on that album, I love the live versions better. That's like literally my only issue with that album. But yeah, it's perfect. That's a perfect record.
Yeah, so Jerry, we get to your number 8.
Hilarious.
I knew you guys would pick that.
I
I would have never picked that, but go ahead.
Every time I see Pete's makeup on this, I fucking cracked up. It's so hilarious.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
But yeah, I mean, this is such a great record from start to finish. I mean, there are some better versions, I think, on double platinum. I think Black Diamond's better on double platinum. I think Strutter's better on double platinum. But
Ooh, really?
yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, like you said before, Charles, this is a game. This is a game breaker, dude. This is a great record. I mean, from top to finish, man. And they are fucking Alive kicked ass. Every version of this album on Alive, it did kick some fucking serious ass. So I understand what you're saying there. But anyway, that's fine. We're on number 8? Is that what we're on right now?
Yeah, you had it one higher than me. Not that high, actually.
I don't have it on vinyl. All right, man. So then I get to my number 8. Everybody's favorite lead singer. Not David Lee Roth. Well, one of mine, just being a dick on that one. YouTube Boy. Fucking Love I Will Follow, The Twilight. It's a fucking great debut album by one of my favorite bands of all time. If Bono gets unrighteously slagged on when he goes between both sides to try to fucking get to help people. He doesn't play on left or right. I love the guy. But and he got saying about that clapping thing. That was false. That was a made-up story. So YouTube Boy. So what's your number 8, Chris?
The year is 1988, and the scenery in prog rock and prog metal is strange, to say the least. Since Rush has kind of abandoned their heavy prog and moved into like a jazz fusion type of thing with Hold Your Fire, there was a void to be filled with bands like Marillion and Yes being very radio friendly and whatever. And then out of the Texas area comes the most underrated band in the history of rock and metal, named King's X, with their first album, Out of the Silent Planet. Holy shit. I can't even tell you about my massive disappointment in every human in the planet Earth, on the planet Earth, to not recognize the greatness of King's X. How this band has flown under the radar so greatly and so low this entire time is a shock to me. It's an utter shock to me. And this album is just absolutely even when it came out, it's not even groundbreaking. I just put it on here because I think it needs to be. It needs to be recognized as a benchmark in progressive rock and metal, because there was literally nothing in like the decade of the 80s that was relatively new, except for maybe, a Saga here and a Marillion there. But like, for the majority of it, it was all like in England, Porcupine Tree kind of, but didn't really break here until like the 90s. King's X, though, like they were doing it and nobody cared until the 90s. Honestly, nobody cared until Faith, Hope, Love. That's it, which didn't come out until I think 91 or 92. So King's X, Out of the Silent Planet, just fucking killer album. Just so good.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
band.
Al Horder's gonna hear this and go, yeah. Good band.
Brilliant band. I mean, Atlantic definitely had more marketing money behind them than Megaforce ever could, but unfortunately, Atlantic just didn't know what to do with them. I'll tell you one thing: if anyone out there is a Pantera fan and you want to know where the inspiration for Cemetery Gates came from,
yes,
listen to Goldilocks off the first album.
Absolutely,
Dimebag said it himself.
Yes, no, there's a quote. It was either Dimebag or Rex that was talking about they drove around and they listened to that album to death, Out of the Silent Planet. Just listen to it to death. And I find it shocking that like two of the biggest influences on Pantera was King's X and Kiss. Like that's so weird
King's
to me.
X. I love Doug and KXM with George Lynch.
Good stuff.
Fucking great stuff. I love those 4 albums, man. They're
Yeah,
having a fifth one coming out too.
as a guitarist, I think Ty Tabor is got one of the best tones I've ever heard.
And so underrated. Listen to the platypus / jelly jam stuff, man. He fucking shreds Ty Tabor. Incredible.
Yeah. So what's your number 8, Lou?
So I mentioned Michael Schenker before, huge UFO fan, but of course he was not the original UFO guitarist. And I think Paul Chapman was a great replacement for UFO when Schenker left. I mean, I think The Wild, the Willing, and the Innocent to me is just as good as Lights Out. Just my opinion. But when I first heard Michael Schenker's debut album, Michael Schenker Group, and produced by Roger Glover of Deep Purple and Rainbow. I mean, geez, like to me, Schenker sounded like a man on a mission, just to melt faces with these heavy, catchy guitar riffs and solos. And you could hear some of the best on that album, whether you're listening to Armed and Ready, Cry for the Nations, Victim of Illusions, Into the Arena, Lost Horizons. I mean, I think it's one of the best solo debut releases from a guitarist ever, and I wish more people knew about it.
Nice.
Ooh.
I agree with you, man. That's some great shit he did. I like him with Robin McNally too. That's a great.
I like that stuff too.
Yeah. But Charles, what's your number 8?
Oh man, I'm going with the Doors debut album.
Nice.
Good
I
one.
mean, what
That's
is
a good
it?
one.
Fucking man, you got the Crystal Ship, Alabama Song, Light My Fire, The End. I mean, that's another one of this damn near greatest hits album. And I love pretty much all the Doors stuff, but that debut album is really stand out to me. So love it.
Jerry, what's your number 7?
I know a woman a little bit more than her debut, but it's a great freaking.
Dude, that first album is a
It's awesome, dude. Don't get me wrong.
20th Century Fox, dude. Come
Anyway,
on.
we did a number the greatest debut album on another podcast on another show a while back, and I forgot this one, and Mark got on my ass about it because it actually is one of my favorite albums ever. Tesla Mechanical Resonance, dude. Fucking love this album. There's not a bad song on this album. These guys were on fire fucking back then. Their first 3 albums, dude, I'm telling you, dude, they're one of the best bands around in that time period. I mean, Frank Hannon, Tommy Skiatz, man, great fucking guitar duo, man. Jeff Keith, a great vocalist. My only criticism of this album, I think they should have started with Coming At You Live than Easy Come, Easy Go, because I don't know. I think Coming At You Live is more of a good album starter.
I agree with you.
But man, I mean, there's not a bad song on this album, dude. I mean,
I thought it'd be London Choir Boys.
no, they still got time.
That's a great band.
Well,
Great band.
I know Charles is going to have Brittany Fox's debut album coming up.
Good call on that
I
one.
mean, one of the best fucking changes, dude. What a great fucking song that is, dude.
Yep.
Underrated fucking tune, in my opinion.
Dude,
Anyway,
I didn't know Little Susie was a cover for a long time.
Yeah, it was a cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 7. I remembered this time, Mark.
Yeah. Well, good job. Because I was like, you forgot Tesla? What the fuck?
One of my favorite albums. Dude.
I don't think you'll forget this one, but I had to put it on here because Charles Trainer hates him so much, and I love him so much, and you love him so much, Jerry. Night Ranger Dawn Patrol.
Good album, dude.
Hate them so much.
You make fun of them all the time.
I just make fun of them. That's all.
Great album.
Great debut album, man.
Great
Don't tell me you
musicians, man.
love me, sing that all over MTV. One of the first videos they had. It's like it's fucking At Night She Sleeps, Sing Me Away. It's like fucking one of the great Eddie's Coming Out Tonight. The title track, Night Ranger. They're fucking battle cry, man. This band was just supposed to be called Ranger, But then they found out right when they printed, I think 100, 200 copies of this, that there was a country band named Ranger. So they had to change it to Night Ranger. So if you see any copies on vinyl of Ranger, that shit's worth money.
I mean,
make sure and keep that.
I love Brad Gillis as a guitar player. To me, the fact that this guy got dumped into Ozzy's band to replace the late great Randy Rhoads, and did it well.
Yes.
Did it incredibly well. I think he deserves a lot more love from the guitar community. People want to say, "Oh, Night Ranger, the Sister Christian band. Oh, Night Ranger, the Secret of My Success band." Man,
Charles
give me a
hates that
break.
song.
Just I think their first two albums are back-to-back gems. So
I mean,
I saw them performed live in their entirety just before COVID.
I thought Jeff Watson was the underrated member of that band, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm a Jeff Watson dude. So
I mean,
God.
his eight-finger tapping skills are ridiculous. He's so good. So
yeah, I have to agree. I was gonna say that, like, in my opinion, I like the songs I like from Night Ranger. To me, they're just another like corporate A&R type of band. But with
that's
this,
not their fault.
no, that's not their fault. You're absolutely right. It doesn't
You
make them
know,
a bad
Brad
band.
could have stayed in
what I was gonna-
Ozzy, but he
what I was
wanted to
gonna-
go back to that band.
But what I was gonna say was you can't deny Brad Gillis's ability. And I love Jack Blade's voice. I always like everything he
Yeah.
does. I like what he did with Tommy Shaw as well back in the day. I like what they did with Damn Yankees.
Mhm.
I like his voice. I don't love Ted Nugent, but I did like Damn Yankees because of Tommy Shaw and Jack Blades. So
You didn't like any of solo Ted Nugent?
I think Ted Nugent's a piece of shit, and I didn't like his music either. No, I didn't.
Okay, well, if you could separate the music from
I didn't like his music either.
that's good. You're one of the people who exactly say you don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny
I
his
strongly
guitar
disagree
ability.
with
The guy,
you.
yeah, I can't deny his guitar ability. I guess he was a shredder. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the type of person to shit
he
on
doesn't
a
just
musician.
shred, dude. He plays a lot of blues and slow stuff, man.
Yeah.
He's not just a shredder.
Chris, you've got to learn from Mark. He's gonna make you like it.
No,
I'm not going to make him
you
like it. I'm
You're gonna have
defending
like 1,000 things on your
All I
Facebook,
said that
listen
You
to this.
need to check this out.
I didn't say that to Jerry. I said, check it out, Jerry. I'll send it to you. I didn't
I'm
say
just
you
fucking
did.
with you, dude. I'm just
I
fucking
cut
with
that word out because you made fun of me, Charles. So I cut that word out
Yeah.
of my vocabulary. But I'm just saying, man, I love Night Ranger. They never put on a bad show. Jack Blades
I
is a
just
god.
tease him because of you, dude.
Yeah, Jack Blades is a rock god to me. I love Jack Blades. Anything Jack Blades does with Sean Blades, 2 solo albums he made. Rock and Roll Ride was awesome. The first solo album was great too.
Ring.
I'm just I don't like Revolution Saints, but
the Roundheads with Ringo Starr was the best thing he ever did because he wasn't singing.
I love Jack Blades' voice, man. So what's your number 7, Chris?
So in 1992, there was a big revolution called the grunge revolution. And there was this band called Nirvana that just kicked in the door, and this smells like Teen Spirit and blah, blah, blah. And all this ballyhoo over this band that created grunge. But in reality, it wasn't even the big four of grunge that created grunge. It was a little band back in 1990 called Mother Love Bone, and the album Apple that actually introduced the world to grunge. Jeff Ament, Stone,
Goddard,
Goddard,
psychedelic
Gossard,
shit, though.
yeah. It also had some glam rock in it. It was grunge. It was alt rock. It was like everything, and it was
a potpourri.
It's so good. It's very melodic, but it's also got the grunge element where it's like dirty sounding, and it's just, you can tell it. Like Mother Love Bone was more like what you would call a collective. Like I notice these days a lot of metal bands like The Ocean is a collective, and Anathema are collectives. Like they're not bands anymore. They're just like a group of musicians that get together and do shit. Mother Love Bone was like a bunch of guys who lived in a house and kind of just did shit, including a lot of drugs. And sadly, that ended tragically. But we had one great album, Apple, Mother Love Bone.
Yeah.
The true start of grunge.
So, Lou, what's your number 7?
First off, Apple is my second favorite Pearl Jam album after Temple of the Dog. Love
Oh,
those
I
albums.
love Temple. I love both. I love Pearl Jam and I love Temple and I love fucking
I was gonna
love them, man.
I was gonna bring this up earlier because you mentioned Temple of the Dog and we were talking about Miles Kennedy. And one of the most poignant moments I've ever had in my entire life in going to a concert was I went to Rock on the Range the weekend Chris Cornell died, and Alter Bridge played, and Miles Kennedy did like a just him and a guitar version of Say Hello to Heaven. And
Mm.
me and roughly, I don't know, there was 60,000 people there. So me and roughly, I don't know, 49,000 men wept. It was insane. Like Miles
Yeah.
Kennedy owned
Well,
that
dude,
shit, and it was incredible.
he's a great lead guitarist. He trades wrists with Marc on stage. So
It was awesome. So anyway,
Yeah.
continue. I'm sorry.
so the
Um,
wicked
So I mentioned before that I just liked bands like Limp Bizkit and Crazy Town. I wasn't too keen on that whole new metal thing, but that didn't mean that I despised the genre, because there were some bands that I felt were unfairly labeled with that subgenre. One of them is this little 5-piece out of Atlanta, Georgia, who, when their debut album came out on TVT, I was 16 years old and completely blown away by the ferocity, the groove, the guitar tone, the production. When I first heard Seven Dust's debut album, I was like, holy cow, like this, I didn't think it sounded like any other band. Like, I didn't know who Stuck Mojo was at the time. I think I discovered them the the next year when they were on WCW on Monday Nitro. So like, I only knew of Seven Dust. And from the opening track, Black, to Bitch, to Terminator, to Too Close to Hate, and I think I recall they were on the Mortal Kombat soundtrack, the second CD of it, but they were known by their original name, Crawl Space. They had the song My Ruin, which ended up being on the Seven Dust debut release. And just hearing this and hearing LaJean Witherspoon sing with these guys. And I'm proud to say that when I went to high school, my high school was right across the street from the projects, and everybody all got along. So there was no, what you hear about in the media today. There was no, supremacy of any one race over another. There was no, battles going on between, oh, you're a this or you're a that. There was none of that. And, like, I knew of the Bad Brains growing up. So, like, to me, I didn't see, color within music. And hearing how incredible LaJean's R&B vocals were with this hard rock metal band out of Atlanta, Georgia, like, it actually, as a musician, it expanded what I thought you could do with hard rock and metal, throwing a little R&B in there, throwing a little groove in there. And Seven Dust was that band for me. So yeah, that, hands down, one of my favorite debut albums.
What's mind blowing to me is that Seven Dust was possibly one of the first bands for me where you listen to a drummer like Morgan Rose do what he does, which I don't want to say it's basic, because it's not like basic, like that makes it sound easy, but it's kind of like normal metal drumming. And then you go and like watch one of his clinics and you find out how good he really is, like above and beyond what he does in Seven Dust. Morgan Rose is off the charts, one of the, like, possibly the top 10, 15 drummers I've ever seen with my own eyes. Yeah, he's insane. And I've seen Mike Mangini, Mike Portnoy, Neil Peart, Danny Carey, like the list goes on. He ranks. The dude is incredible. Seven Dust is awesome.
Yeah. One of the important traits that I think every drummer should have is timing and tempo. And Morgan Rose has that because he's locked in with the song. He doesn't speed up, he doesn't slow down. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. And I played with some drummers who, didn't know their drumstick from their asshole. So, when I get to hear a drummer like Morgan Rose, um, do what he does with Seven Dust, and the fact that he could pull that off just as equally well live. Yeah, I mean, people want to, Mark, I'm sorry, I'm going to mention his name. People want to say Tommy Lee is like, like a heavy drummer. Morgan Rose blows him away, in my
Blows him
opinion.
Tommy
away.
Lee isn't one of my favorite drummers.
Not even close.
Not even close, dude.
Morgan
Good.
Rose is a beast.
Yeah.
I'd rather hear Mike Mangini, Neil Peart, Mike Portnoy, and Peter Chris is a better drummer.
I don't know about
Karen
that.
Carpenter. Karen Carpenter is a better drummer than Tommy.
I agree with all of you.
So Charles, what's your
Oh.
number 7?
Ringo Starr was rather underrated.
Oh yeah, he was.
He
Yeah.
was very underrated.
People don't
Very
give him
much so.
enough credit for being a left-handed drummer playing a right-handed kit. That's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah.
No, he was a
Yeah.
beat. Ringo was very underrated.
Yeah. Lou, I love the WCW reference, fellow wrestling
Good stuff.
nerd here. Daphne actually dated somebody in Stuck Mojo, if I'm not mistaken.
Daphne was married to Rich Ward, who's now in
or
Fozzy.
something. Yeah, married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest in
Weren't
peace,
they?
Daphne.
Didn't they go into Fozzy, Stuck Mojo, or
Yeah.
something like that?
Rich Ward and I think the drummer of Stuck Mojo did Fozzy with Chris Jericho. So yeah, it kind of evolved into that.
Yeah. Well, enough said about
I'm
Fozzy.
indifferent.
They're not on my list. Yeah. On my number 7, Lou brought him up earlier, man. Phantom of the Opera, Iron Maiden. Come on, man. Long live Paul Di'Anno. I'm not afraid to say it. The real singer of Iron Maiden. Thank you. Over. Done. Best Maiden album, in my opinion. The debut. So there you
I
go.
know a lot of people who feel that way. I mean, Mark. I mean,
Why
I
can't
don't
we
think
just
it's-
like them both?
I like both of them, but I prefer Bruce, and I like Maiden because of freaking Power
I like
Slave,
Blaze
man.
Bailey. So enough said. I was all
Power
three of
Slave
them.
got me in a freaking Maiden, and I went back years later and got into the Di'Anno stuff. But I started with Bruce, and I just like Bruce. It's just my preference.
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
liking
it was-
Di'Anno.
Yeah, it was Power Slave was my first take.
I'm the trendy guy because all the cool people like Di'Anno. So
No,
There
you
you
know
go.
what it is? I love Bruce, and I interviewed Bruce back in my college radio days, and he was awesome. But my sole opinion is that I don't believe his voice is right with some of the Di'Anno era material. Some of it.
I agree with you.
But that's all.
He's better with the Blaze.
No comment. Moving right along.
No,
Come
he
on,
does
I'm
the
only
Blaze
person that likes
Bailey stuff
Blaze.
good.
Come on.
He does-
I like Blaze though. Blaze, I've heard
He's a
good
cool
things about
dude,
Blaze.
man.
Yeah.
He was given an unfair release.
Hey, he went and
Lucky.
saw them in the audience. That was cool, man.
Oh. I know he wasn't like backstage. He was like way up. In the
Yeah, in the
front.
upper deck. Upper deck, end of the hall.
All right, Jerry, let's get to your number 6.
Dude, this band to this date still amazes me how fucking popular they are. I mean, you can't do a commercial without hearing one of their fucking songs. I mean, Queen's debut album, man.
Good
Fucking
choice.
what a great record this is, man. Keep
Fucking
yourself alive.
Killer. Oh my
7
god.
Seas of
That's my
Rye.
favorite
I
Queen
mean,
album.
Fucking The Great King Rat. All kinds of fucking great shit out there.
My Fairy King, dude, is weird
Yes.
as fuck. I love that song.
And it's fucking amazing how popular this fucking band is. They're more popular now than they were when Freddie was alive, I think, man.
I mean, you want to talk about some BS we could have talked about. Somebody actually said that they're probably more relevant than the Beatles are right now in terms of relevancy, not in popularity or influence, but just in pure relevancy.
And I don't shit on them for bringing Adam Lambert into that. You know, I think it's cool. Usually people think it's a scab, this and that. Nobody can replace Freddie. He's not trying to replace Freddie, first of all.
It's
But,
better
Definitely
than
not.
Paul Rogers.
I don't mind him being in the band and doing Queen songs, man. It's like, I don't know. It just, the band is a freaking enigma, in my opinion, dude. How popular they still are today. It's just incredible, man. And this album fucking is a fucking pure banger, dude. Man.
It's a
That
great
album-
album.
Maybe their
I had
hardest.
no
I think
idea.
maybe
any
their
of it
hardest album.
Queen 2 is pretty damn hard too, but
Queen 2 with the ogre, like an
Ogre
Yeah.
Battle.
Ogre
and,
Battle, dude.
yeah, I mean, there's so many great songs on there, but that's early prog too. Like that's got some metalish moments in it, and it's just so good.
They're so way ahead of their time, dude. On the first 3
And
albums.
in their 80s and 90s, the Miracle and fucking Innuendo were great
Innuendo.
fucking albums too, man. Just
I don't like Hot Space, but I like
they got a little.
I like the game. The game is a great album.
Then they finished
Flash.
out on top with those 2 albums, though, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, fucking.
Flash rules, huh, Mark?
Who?
Flash.
No, Flash sucks.
Flash is
Ah,
great.
come
What are
on,
you
dude.
talking about? Flash is
Fuck
Fuck
great.
that album, dude. Hot Space and Flash.
Fucking awesome.
I
I
like
gotta
the
admit,
ones. I like the song because it's in the movie I own over here. But the rest of the album, no.
I gotta admit, a Kind of Magic is my favorite Queen album because
Yeah.
Good album.
Highlander.
I'm such a mark for Highlander. It's not even funny.
That
the song-
Prince of the Universe, all kinds
But
of stuff.
the
I
song, the song "Give Me the Prize" might be one of
Oh my-
Freddie's like greatest performances.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because they hate that song.
dude, it's just weird.
It's got some
dude.
weird stuff, yeah, but his vocal performance on that
Yeah.
and Princes of the Universe are incredible.
I look.
I
Who
love-
wants to live forever, dude?
I love
Fucking
the
hey, dude.
I love the fact that Brian May pretty much credited Steve Hackett of Genesis for his sound, because he said the musical box from Genesis when Phil Collins and Steve Hackett first joined the band. So that album, Nursery Crime,
Phil Collins rules. Go
he
ahead.
said that. I agree. He said that I have no shame in it.
Me too.
He said that musical box was, what led him to doing harmonizing on the guitar for Queen. So they were influenced by prog rock, so I think they're just as prog as they were glam.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And just a side note for comedy's sake, if you ever want to get into a slobber knocker, just as intense as the Hagar DLR thing, bring up Gabriel and Collins and just
There you
go
go.
from there.
Oh,
There's no
Nah, nah, nah,
comparison.
I've got- I
I'm
haven't
talking
gotten
about I'm talking about amongst Genesis fans. I'm not talking about
I
amongst
love
regular
them
people.
both, man. I love both their solo careers.
Yeah, but
and I
like
love
regular people can't listen to Gabriel Genesis because it's too like highbrow.
Oh, God.
So they all know the Collins stuff.
That's so theatrical. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is a fucking perfect album, man.
Right, but they didn't have radio songs back then. It wasn't until Collins hit. But if you get into the
Yeah, but-
Genesis circles and you drop this little nugget, you go, I prefer Phil Collins over Peter Gabriel. Are you fucking crazy? Oh my God, it's awful.
See, I just tell them that my favorite era was the Steve Hackett era, and that encompasses both of them.
What was the first album with Phil Collins on it? The Genesis one where he's
Nursery Crime.
Nursery.
Are you talking about when he
fucking
was
great
singing?
album, man.
Yeah.
Steve Hackett.
Oh, talking when he was singing. Yeah, no, it was
Well, only when he was
then there
singing, it was
three.
Trick of the Tail, and that's
Trick of the-
actually
Trick
my
of the
favorite
Tail.
Genesis
Trick of the
album.
Tail.
The
Yeah,
Tail
it's
was
a
there?
great
That-
album.
That's my
That was
favorite
his first
Genesis
one,
album.
really? Okay,
Trick-
yeah.
But
Yeah.
he did sing a lot on The Lamb Lies Down. You could hear him a lot on
Well, he
that.
sang background.
Yeah, but you could hear him. You could hear him. He sang a little lead on that album too. But
Yeah, but I mean, I love Genesis even when they went pop. I didn't care. I mean,
Yeah.
to me, good music is good music. Who gives
That's
a
right.
fuck?
I even
That's
like
right,
him with
dude.
that one album without Phil.
Uh,
Calling
That
All
was-
Stations.
That was a tall order to swallow. But
It's not that bad, Dude,
I-
the
nothing
keyboard
against Ray
player,
Wilson.
that keyboard player is a genius. Tony Banks.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
also the biggest dick I heard from his
Wow.
own bandmates, because apparently he's the reason why Peter Gabriel left.
Oh God.
Incredible.
Charles, you're on. Where are we at?
No, I don't know.
Oh,
Well,
my
I just
number
think
six.
the-
My number
the o-
six.
Yeah, the only objection to Phil Collins is like a groovy kind of love. And no, fucking
Oh,
that's
let's
the
not talk
shit.
about that.
No,
Yeah.
mine is the Tarzan soundtrack. I can't stand that album.
Oh my God,
You
dude,
did
that
my
soundtrack
heart.
rocks so fucking hard, dude.
Shut
All
your
right.
filthy holes, you little
I know
bastards.
none of you would pick this. I don't even think Jerry would pick this, even though I know he loves this band. I have to go with Counterbox's debut album.
That's a good album.
That's a good album.
Good album. dude.
Yeah.
Fucking Don't You Change, No Sense. Like a Mother's Dream.
I
Fucking
watched him get
bluesy
booed off.
Arrow.
I watched him
Rain.
get booed off the stage by Rush fans during that tour.
Dude, Rain is a
They got
fucking
booed?
masterpiece.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
they did.
dude. So
That's why Rush had no opening acts anymore.
I saw two show. I saw them at Nassau Coliseum on the Counterparts tour. That was Rush's Counterparts tour, and I was second row center, and I was next to a dude that had a Tom Servo sign from Mystery Science Theater 3000, and fucking what's the singer's name from Candlebox?
Kevin Martin.
Kevin Martin, that's right. So they come out and they're doing this stuff, and this was like right around the time that Far Behind just hit. Like they were just starting to gain hold. Like You was a little bit of a hit, and then they had Change, which was kind of like caught.
The
And then
deep tracks on that album are fucking amazing too.
And then Far Behind hit. And I'm telling you, man, I like this band. I was like, oh, cool, because I was a grunge guy, but I was a Rush fan, right? So I was there to see Rush. So I'm there and I'm fucking cheering this band on, and I'm the only one. I watched people, they were like, boo, get off the fucking stage. It was crazy. And Kevin Martin went as far as to take off his shirt and put an Islanders jersey on because they were in Nassau Coliseum, and nobody gave a shit. They didn't care. They were just like, he did everything. He tried to placate these people. I felt so fucking bad.
That's a
And then
cheap
the next
pop.
Yeah, and then the next tour, Rush was like, "Yeah, we can't do this anymore," and that's when they did the full 3-hour show after
An
that.
evening
From that
with
point
Rush,
forward,
yeah.
yeah. So
But,
crazy.
There's three bands I wish I could have seen with Rush. One was UFO, the other one was Mama's Boys, who was a band from the 80s that I can't stand the fact that they get no love whatsoever. And Mr. Big, just so I could see, Paul Gilbert.
I saw him with
Sheehan.
Tommy Shaw.
I supposedly saw Mr. Big with
yeah,
Rush. I had to call my friend last week and say, "Hey, we saw Preston. Who opened up for Rush?" Mr. Big did. I'm like, did we see Mr. Big? I don't fucking remember seeing them. I was like, wow.
So
I guess
It's a great band, man.
So
I
Mr.
love
Big-
Paul
this-
I love Paul Gilbert as a guitarist. I mean,
He's one of my favorites,
yeah.
and they're going on their final tour, so
Yeah.
you'll have your chance.
Cool.
But
Maybe he'll
I
bring
saw-
Racer X back.
Yeah.
right,
Maybe.
right. I saw I only saw 3 opening bands for Rush, and it was Candlebox, Mr. Big, and Primus. Primus of all people.
Oh, that's a
Yeah, that's crazy.
Getty and what's his name? Les were friends. They were fishing buddies.
Yeah,
Still
of
are.
course.
I
Yeah,
think.
still are. Yeah.
Actually, I named my dog after a Primus song.
Which one?
What song?
So this the line in My Name is Mud, he says, "Call me Aloysius Ever Abercrombie." That's long for Mud. My dog's name is Aloysius, which
That's
I shortened
awesome.
to Wishes because no one could pronounce Aloysius or let alone spell it.
I was gonna put Suck on this list, but I didn't. Another live debut album, by the way.
You could have
Balls
said
on a
Crystal
Okay,
band.
Fry.
Chris, it's your number 6.
All right, so my number 6 album is me just being a bitch. Because I refuse to acknowledge the actual debut album as their debut album because it wasn't a major label release. I don't like the original the first singer, and I don't think it left the mark that was it should have. And if they didn't change singers, the band probably would have faded away. So in 1992, Dream Theater released Images and Words, which to me is the rightful debut album, even though
that's cheating.
Even though the actual debut album is When Dream and Day Unite.
I would have picked that one.
But Images and Words changed the entire progressive music scene, from a progressive rock and progressive metal standpoint. They may not have been the first to sound the way that they sounded, but they were definitely the ones that put it on the map the way that they did in what was a very dormant period of time. And they got in like right as Tool, before Tool became like this progressive metal band. They were more of a grunge type of heavy alt metal band. So Dream Theater, Images and Words, the album is just perfection from cover to cover. And it's everything you could ever want from like it's almost like Rush on like, I don't know, souped up crack. Like they just decided to step it up to the next level and go, okay, well, this is the natural progression. So that's what it was. And we haven't seen we have seen another progression since, and I'll probably get to that in a little bit. Preview.
All right, Lou.
It's one of my favorite albums of all time.
What's your number 6, Lou?
So this is where I think I'm going to get a lot of hate, and that's okay. I can live with it, I love Linkin Park. I remember when I first heard them, yeah, it was like they were riding a wave, or they came at a time where new metal, rap rock, whatever you want to call it, was at its peak. Um, the difference is, I thought that the songwriting quality of Linkin Park separated them from everybody else, and I thought their production was killer too. Um, this was an album where, like, when I bought it, I wore it out so much on my Discman that I had to buy a second one because it was so scratched to shit. Um, and to this day, it's an album where it's like I could listen to from start to finish. You know, I got to see them in concert and just blown away by how good they were. You know, I miss Chester Bennington as a songwriter. Um, they were a very important band for me because, again, it's like they kind of tested the waters of what you could do with metal, rock, hip hop, even industrial, but keep it melodic and just and keeping it honest. You know, like I Hybrid Theory to me is like, to me it's their best album. It's one of the best debut albums that I've ever heard. And, you know, 23 years later, I still listen to it.
Right
Chester
on.
Chester Bennington's one of the best singers in the history of rock and metal, and he not only is a phenomenal performer and a phenomenal singer, but he is so massively influenced what we call metalcore, or whatever the metal scene is today, with his screams and the way he sings.
Oh
Chester
yeah.
Chester Bennington is such a massive influence. It's a shame that he's gone. It's a crime.
You could hear his influence in bands like Asking Alexandria, Bring Me the
I
Horizon.
Prevail.
Yeah, I mean, you
all
know,
of it. All of it.
he definitely made his mark. I just wish he was still here.
Yeah. Charles, you're number 6.
Well, Collision Course with Jay-Z is a fucking work of art, I think, with Linkin Park and Jay-Z mashed together. So Scribble, Jay-Z's not generic, by the way. No, my pick will be Metallica, Kill 'Em All, coming in there. Another one that's damn near greatest hits album. I mean, so many classics on there. And but I mean, I love Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth. Cliff Burton's one of my favorite bass players ever. He makes it sound like a guitar. Another Geddy Lee guy there, by the way. He loves good old Geddy Lee.
He loves a lot of bass players, though.
Metal Militia. You know, I mean, there's just fucking, man, that song. I mean, that album rules, man.
It still sounds good today.
Yeah, it's just, that's Metallica to me. And I mean, Master Puppets would still be my favorite, but I still think Kill 'Em All is a damn fine album, especially for a debut album. So Kill 'Em All.
Oh yeah, that's a great album. I didn't pick it because I knew either you or Jerry would pick that. And I want to give a variety. I like different albums so people we all have different tastes. So that's why I like different people on here. So we don't give like, oh, Black Sabbath, blah, blah, Van Halen, blah, blah, you know, the same old shit. I want to hear a variety of topics, and this is great. So Jerry, we go to your number 5.
I got a niche of taking it right for
I
him.
called that one.
But Charles mentioned this is basically a greatest hits album, dude. I mean, fucking loaded. Jump in the Fire, The Four Horsemen, Whiplash, man, Phantom Lord, Metal Militia, Seek and Fucking Destroy, man. I mean, compare those 4 guys right there to those 4 guys on Load, man. Completely fucking different band, in my opinion, dude. Yeah, this album fucking shreds. It's my second favorite one behind Ride the Lightning. But yeah, you can't go wrong. The first 3 Metallica albums, in any order you want to put them in, it's cool with me. I won't argue with you. But man, this is definitely a fucking, and you mentioned it, Lou, it still fucking sounds great today. I just listen to this. I listen to this song. I listen to about once every 2 weeks, I think, still. It's that good of an album. That's my number, whatever number we're on.
5. And I get to my number 5. I'm going to pick a band that I fucking loved from when I first saw the Cult of Personality on MTV. I'm gonna pick me some Living Color Vivid. It's a fucking great album. Fucking Vernon Reid. Open Letter to a Landlord is a fucking classic. Fucking, I think, overlooked song because everybody looks at the Cult of Personality on that album. There's better songs on that album than that fucking song. You guys check out fucking Living Color Vivid, man. Corey is a great fucking singer. Vernon
But
Reid.
you like it better than Night Ranger? Come on.
I
You put it
kind of
that
do.
high?
I like Midnight Madness
Really?
better than this album. No, it's a fucking great different album, dude. I like it.
I smell fibbing.
I just saw them 2 weeks ago, and Corey Glover doesn't sound like he has aged one single minute. The guy still top of his game. Sounds amazing.
He was eating while he was on stage while everybody else was singing Cult of Personality for him. I thought that was hilarious.
I'm not
I'm like,
fibbing,
dude's
Charles.
got to eat. Let him eat.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I
I'm
like
just
that album.
teasing.
Overall, Night Ranger has a better catalog for me. But that album is a great debut, man. It was different. You know, you're seeing, I don't need African Americans singing like metal rock. It's like, what is this? I go, this is different. I love it.
But you know, though, they cut their teeth at CBGBs playing with hardcore bands. So, you know, they get all the credit in the world for not giving a fuck and doing whatever they wanted.
And looking like surfers too, man. It's like,
if you want to hear Living Color get heavy, just listen to Stain. That fucking
that's a great album.
Oh yeah,
dude.
yeah.
They came out with that shit after Time's Up, and they were like, "Okay, you think we're like this happy band? Watch this."
Yeah, Doug Wimbish, I thought, just added some. He added some extra oomph to that band.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from Musk Skillings, but you know, love Doug's bass playing.
Fantastic.
And then we get to your number 5, Chris.
So a lot of people shit on the 90s as being like one of the worst decades for like music, specifically rock and metal. And it always makes me laugh. I don't really understand how I understand that like Metallica and thrash metal, and it was glam metal in the 80s and blah, blah, blah. In the 70s of the 70s, obviously. But the 90s, you had like, we already brought up the grunge, and we brought up Dream Theater and the massive shift in progressive metal and progressive rock, and led into Tool and all that other stuff. To me, the biggest innovation, though, was adding rap to metal. And sure, it yielded horse shit like Limp Bizkit, which is a tragedy. However, Rage Against the Machine's first album, their self-titled album in 1992, is one of the most amazing albums ever put to tape, period. It's heavy. It's lyrically just amazing. It's introspective. It's musically solid. It's got Tom Morello is one of the most underrated guitarists there is. They use polyrhythmic beats and things of that nature within their music. Zach De La Rocha is everything between a rapper and a vocalist and a friggin' protest leader. This album has, it's just, I listen to this album probably once every, I don't know, month at least, at minimum. Even when I'm bored with Rage Against the Machine, I'm going to throw on a few tracks from this one. It comes up in a playlist or something. It's just forever in my ears. Rage Against the Machine's first album is just classic.
Yeah, man. So, Lou, what's your number 5?
So I'm going to go back into my love for hardcore, especially from New York. So I didn't know about this band until I discovered Typo Negative on Q104.3, which was at the time it was a pure rock station. And I first heard Christian Woman. It was my ninth grade. I heard it like right before Halloween, and then Black Number One came out a couple of weeks later, but the album had already been out. So I discovered Typo Negative, loved what I heard on the radio, went out and got Bloody Kisses, and found out that Peter, the singer, was in a band called Carnivore in the 80s, and they were considered one of the leaders of the crossover thrash hardcore scene. Well, I found their first album because my my friend from middle school at the time had it, and he lent it to me. And listen, I love the Cro-Mags, I love the Bad Brains, I love Minor Threat. I give credit to all those bands for being the leaders of hardcore and, you know, releasing
Suicidal.
great. I'm sorry.
Suicidal.
Love Suicidal, you know, and releasing some classic material. But when I first heard the debut Carnivore album with Predator, the title track, Male Supremacy, God is Dead, World Wars 3 and 4, I was like, what the hell? You know, like, here I am in my teenage years, fearing for my life that these guys were gonna come out from the sewers and kill my entire family. You know, like, and this is me. You know, my mom had me in Sunday school for 9 years, and then she wanted me to teach Sunday school for 3 years, and I said, you know what? I'm not cut out for this.
This
I'd
is
rather
funny as
stay
hell.
home and listen to Carnivore. I'll go
So
to
funny.
church, but I'm not teaching shit. So you know, Carnivore's debut album.
Wow. Yeah,
They are my favorite hardcore band of all time.
if you know anything, if you've ever seen what Peter Steele looks like, that's it. That's a terribly frightening thing to think that's going to happen to you.
I met him once.
I met him once too. I saw Pantera, Sepultura, Prong, and Biohazard at Nassau Coliseum on the Far Beyond Driven tour in 1994. And I was in the pit and I got dehydrated and I was stumbling my way out and I went down the tunnel that leads off the floor and boom, I ran into the wall. Fucking boom, it fell down. And then the wall picked me up. It was Peter Steele. He picked me up literally by the gruff of my neck. I was wearing a hoodie and he picked me up and he's like, "Are you okay, little man?" Like that. And I was like, "Oh shit, that's Peter Steele."
Yeah.
Like, dude was fucking like wrestler size. It's insane how big he was. It's
He was a
crazy.
gentle giant.
Super nice guy. Super nice guy.
Yeah, I ran into him in Lemoore, his home away from home in Brooklyn.
Oh, I hear so much about that place.
It was at the Armored Saint concert in 2000, and all of a sudden Pete comes in and he accidentally bumps into me. He's like, "Oh, sorry." I'm like, I wanted to say the words, "You're Peter Steele. You can do whatever the fuck you want." But all that came out was, That's all I can come out.
Yeah.
All right, Charles, what's your number 5?
Well, I want to piggyback off what Chris said that on the 90s, I think it gets a lot of slack. And this album had to be on my list. One of my favorite bands of all time. Maybe it'll be a surprise how low I have it, but the 1994 absolute classic, definitely Maybe from Oasis. Basically, their whole classic catalog's on that record, with the exception of Digsy's Dinner. You know, you got Rock and Roll Star. I mean, that's how you start off a career, right there. Rock and Roll Star. You're not down with who I am. Look at you all. You're all in my hands tonight. I mean, just awesome. Again, Noel Gallagher was starving at the time. Wrote all these songs from desperation. That's why there's that urge. It's going to have something in common with another album coming up on my list. Absolutely epic. If you know rock and roll, you should know that album.
All
Great album.
Jerry, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is an album written in this guy's basement. We all know who that is. Boston's debut album, dude.
Knew you were gonna pick that. Yeah.
Best singer ever in Brad Delp. Sorry, he's my all-time favorite singer. Great voice. His and Tom's guitar fucking go so good together. I mean, talking about a greatest hits album, man. I think you hear any one of these songs on the radio any given day, man. You do. It's fucking amazing how this still holds up today. And at the time, it sounded so different when it first came out compared to what was coming out that time, man. Just a fucking great fucking album, dude.
You can literally hear any one of those songs on classic rock radio at
exactly,
any time.
man. I mean,
it's crazy.
I mean, in the second one, Don't Look Back, how great that album was, and that was rushed.
Yeah.
You know, it's like fuck. Just imagine if it wasn't rushed, how great it would have been.
I love Third Stage, man.
I say this all the time about this album. The solo for "Hitch a Ride," dude, is fucking some of the best guitar work I've ever heard in my life.
The whole album is great guitar.
Yeah, it is. It's just a fucking great record.
The
What
tone
a
is
great
ridiculous.
band! And he had a great band with him, dude. I mean, Fran Sheehan and Barry Goodrow. Those guys are fucking sedation, man. Great fucking band, dude. Great.
The best afro in rock history,
Yeah.
by the way.
Hell yeah.
All right, man. So we get to my number 4, and I just want to tell you, Lou, I love Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. That almost made my list. It's a fucking great album that I still listen to today. I love In the End. Just love Chester's aggression with his voice. I didn't get to say that, and I've seen them live. The first band I had to like sit out the opening act because I didn't want to hear fucking The Prodigy. God damn, that band sucked. But I saw
like them.
I hate The Prodigy.
Yeah, I like them.
Oh god, that guy, it was just like all it was bass, dude. You couldn't hear what he was saying. It's just like awful.
So there'll be no Aphex Twin in your house?
No. So I'm just gonna say, but I gotta pick I gotta go with Black Sabbath.
Good one.
I know that's an album some of you guys might have picked. I'm not sure, but that's one of the albums I had to pick because you can't deny that album's greatness. I could have cheated and did Heaven and Hell, which is my favorite Black Sabbath album, but I went for the debut because this is them raw, like nothing like it coming out at that time.
Yeah, you played the wrong NIV on your show last week, dude.
I did.
Yeah,
I played it from the album.
Oh, you played a cover. I thought of that song.
No, I played 2 of them.
Oh, you played both of them? You didn't?
I played the Ugly Kid Joe version, and then I played the version you wanted.
So Jerry just outed himself as someone who doesn't listen to your
You didn't
whole
listen.
show.
No, I did hear. I would have noticed that.
No, I played
I
the Ugly Kid Joe version for Matthew, and then I played the Black Sabbath version for you.
Yes, I know that, but why did you play that? Oh, because he requested it. Matthew did.
He requested the Ugly Kid Joe version.
I thought you
did
have to rub that in my. I thought you didn't have to rub that in my face because you always put Ugly Kid Joe in my face.
No, that was Matthew Warner's book. Don't you listen?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he picked. I had to go find Nativity in Black. It was from It was from an album with a bunch of different artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were doing that. I thought you were doing that to rub it in.
Oh no, it was a requested, but
White Zombie's cover of Feed the Gods on that album is incredible.
Yeah, I got both of them. I got 1 and 2 now. But then we get to you, Chris. What's your number 4?
Okay, so continuing with the utmost amazing creativity of the 90s, we land to what a lot of people consider, not a lot of people, I'm sorry, people like in the know who get into like the underground thing. And Lou might know this because he said he's very into hardcore, but this album was considered the beginnings or possibly the very first true metalcore album, and that would be Destroy the Machines by Earth Crisis in 1994.
Love that fucking album.
Absolutely.
Man, you guys are on the same wavelength there. I'm
dude,
like,
the friggin' riffage on this, well, the riffs on this album are just aplenty. There's just a ton of them. And Carl Buchner is possibly one of the greatest screamers in the history of the game. The lyrics are just biting and just protest worthy. They're straight edge vegan, like
pro Second Amendment.
Environmentalists, like they're just everything. It's like, and they're just like but the most impressive thing on here though is to me the drum work and the lyrics are just absolutely insane. I mean, not the lyrics, the riffs are absolutely insane on this record, and you can hear this today. Like you can hear it in today's metalcore music is direct descendant of this album. Earth Crisis, Destroy the Machines.
Forced March, one of the best opening tracks on any
fantastic
album.
Yeah, I saw I know it's on a Between the Buried and Me album too, the cover album they did.
Yeah, that was a pretty good cover.
Yeah, it was really good. However, there is an awful cover of Bohemian Rhapsody, Bicycle Race on there. Really bad.
We don't have to talk about it. It's okay.
all right, Lou.
It's one of my favorite bands, but still.
What's your number 4, Lou?
So I mentioned, how I discovered Typo Negative and how much I love Carnivore. And this one I'm gonna go with Typo Negative, Slow, Deep, and Hard. because I loved Bloody Kisses, but what I love about Slow Deep and Hard was because technically it's the Lost Carnivore album. Like this is material that Peter wrote after Carnivore broke up, before Typo Negative really came into its own. So there's that heavy crossover thrash sound in there, mixed with like your Sisters of Mercy ish goth rock keyboards and industrial sounds added in there. I never heard anything like it. And and to me, Typo Negative, and especially Slow Deep and Hard, was really important because it kind of solidified what underground metal was at the time. So like, to me, Roadrunner Records had like some of the best bands in the early to mid 90s. I mean, you had Fear Factory, you had Sepultura, you had Typo, you had Life of Agony. They had so much great stuff, but listening to Typo Negative, their Slow Deep and Hard record, and the opening track, Unsuccessfully Coping with the Natural Beauty of Infidelity, aka I Know You're Fucking Someone Else. It's like it combined dark metal with like these catchy Beatle-esque choruses, and it was crazy. To me, Typo was the band that was able to bridge the Beatles and Black Sabbath. And you saw that on this debut record, and I loved it.
All right. Charles, what's your number 4?
Well, you already picked it. Black Sabbath debut album. If just for the title track alone, that riff, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's absolute metal bliss right there. I mean, the Wizard. So, I mean, you already covered it. Should be on everybody's list, to be honest with you. But whichever. Black Sabbath debut.
What's your number 3, Jerry?
A couple of you talked about it already. Iron Maiden's debut. Fucking
Good
great.
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, Dennis Stratton was good with them. I prefer Adrian Smith and Dave Murray. They're my favorite metal guitar duo. I like them. A lot of people say they're like a KK Downing and Glenn Tipton, or Adrian Smith or Dave Murray. I'd go Maiden, just because Maiden's one of my favorite bands. To me, they're a do no wrong band, and I know for a lot of people that's hard to believe, because I know a lot of people think they've had a lot of shitty albums. I don't think so. I pretty much like just about everything they've done, except for Dance to Death. I didn't care for that one.
Oh,
but anyway, back to this one here, dude. This is a fucking stone cold classic, man. And yeah, they're more cartoonish with Eddie on the first one. The second one, it was like, the Killers fucking Eddie is the best of all time, dude. Definitely.
Never heard from again.
Fucking just great fucking artwork on their albums, dude. But yeah. Anyway, that's my number 3, is it?
3, yeah. So I'll
hold on. What did Charles pick?
Charles.
Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath.
Okay, cool. All right.
So then I'll go to my number 3, which is the Cars debut album.
Nice.
This is like a greatest hits album. Every song you've heard on the radio. It's like, plus you got
That's
the
a good one.
PB
Living in stereo.
moving in
man.
stereo, moving in stereo. See, now you fucked up. I corrected you.
In Touch with My World, though? Is that a classic?
Yes, I'm in touch with you. It goes with the album, dude. Don't you
Yeah.
stop.
I mean, I love the album, but
You're
that's
all
the
I've got
one song.
tonight, all mixed up. Good times roll. My best friend's girl. Just what I needed. It's a fucking perfect album, right?
BB
there.
Case, man. That's all I gotta say about
Bye
that.
Bye Love is on that one too, right, Mark?
Yeah, Bye Bye Love is on here.
Love
too.
that song.
It's like,
Yeah.
damn, I love every
Man,
Cars
I'm
album.
torn between that and Candio. Really.
Yeah,
We did
Candio's
that
my favorite.
battle. That was a tough battle.
Yeah, Candio was my favorite. But that was a tough battle. This one by 2
Yeah.
votes, right? I think 2 votes.
Yeah. Yeah, I do prefer the debut by just C here, but Candio is very strong as well.
So what's your number 3, Chris?
So continuing to continue on the idea that I'm always going to put forth that the 90s was the most creative decade of music, especially in rock and metal or rock in general, since the 60s, I am now going to bring up the third genre that was created during this time period, and that was nu metal. And with the self-titled debut of Korn in 1994, arguably one of the most creative things I ever heard in my life. My head nearly exploded out of the brain, boom, like out of the back of my head. And it caught on like that. Like by the time the second album came out, it was like, okay, this is a thing now. And from the slap bass techniques, I mean, I know we heard this with Primus, but then they tuned it like way down and made it like heavy as fuck. And then you had Jonathan Davis and his vocalization, which we had never heard anything like that before. It's been mimicked but never completely duplicated. This album is just from start to finish just a complete and awesome album. I have a problem with the one song with the title that I will not say here. I'm okay with it given the explanation of Jonathan Davis. So there is a questionable tune on there lyrically. So if you're going to listen to this one and you tend to get offended, maybe think about that. But other than that, amazing album.
Well, I know the track you're
benchmark.
talking about, but he used that in the context
I know.
of throwing the negativity back at the ones that called him that.
Right. No,
So
I get it. I get it. But people,
I mean, I believe in an artist's artistic license freedom. I believe in it.
I have another album coming up. I have two more. The last three on mine have questionable songs.
Is one of them the Mentors? I'm just kidding. Anyways,
No.
All right, then we get to your number 3, Lou.
all right. So this was my gateway metal bands. And I remember although they had 2 albums that were released in Japan with the late great Randy Rhoads, nobody really knew about them unless you lived in California where they were from. But I remember as a kid, my brother had this on cassette, and the album cover was this guy in a red leather straitjacket with a steel mask on. From the opening track, Metal Health, Bang Your Head, I was instantly hooked. Looking back, there's one song where it's like every time I hear it, I kind of throw up in my mouth a little bit because of the horrible lyrics, such as I want to kiss the lips. I want to kiss your lips, not the ones on your face. I mean, it's right up there with Burn Bitch Burn by Kiss.
I was gonna say that's some Paul Stanley shit right there, or some Gene Simmons shit right there.
But I mean, you know, and I really don't care for the Slade cover of Come On Feel the Noise. I actually thought Mama We're All Crazy Now was a better cover. Yeah,
I agree. That's actually a good call, dude.
Yeah, I just feel like Come On Feel the Noise. It's like after a while, it's like, okay, done with this. You know, it's like there's certain songs if I never hear them on the radio again, throw that Hotel California, Stairway to Heaven, Enter Sandman on that list. Yes. But you know, all the other songs on them on that album, you know, especially like the album cuts, like Breathless, Run for Cover, Slick by a Cadillac, Love's a Bitch, Thunderbird, the tribute to Randy Rhoads. I love to this day.
Great song, Thunderbird.
I to this day I still love Quiet Riot's Mental Health. So
Kevin DuBrow is a very underrated singer too, in my
Oh,
opinion.
I agree on that.
I like.
He was
I
a
liked
dick
his
when I
voice.
met him, unfortunately. But
Well, that doesn't surprise me in the least. But very, very good singer.
Yeah,
So-
but I could separate the artist from the person in this sense, and you know, I will never forget what it meant to me. So
All I know is all I have to say is that the weirdest thing I've ever seen was Rudy Sarzo playing in Queensryche with Jeff Tate. That was odd. But other than that,
that was a very odd period.
Yeah.
I mean that really started the whole, hey, talk about mitosis. 2 versions of the same band with the same name.
They settled on
Yeah,
the corner.
yeah.
Jeff has the rights to all the Operation Mindcrime. He's the only one who could play it in its entirety. So
But they could
kept
still-
the name.
But Queensryche could still play songs from the band,
but they
from the
can't play
album.
the whole thing in its entirety.
oh, so what? Who cares? But it was
Mhm.
weird. Rudy Sarzo does not fit in Queensryche. Like that just didn't make sense.
Rudy
Like,
Sarzo could do what the fuck
Neither
he
did
wants.
Bobby.
Was Rudy licking his bass? Like,
That's what I'm saying. It's exactly what happened. I'm hearing
I think
I'm hearing Empire, and I'm seeing Rudy Sarzo do his Rudy Sarzo thing, and I'm like, it's just weird. It just didn't make sense.
Rudy Sarzo could do what the fuck Rudy Sarzo wants
He's
to
a
do.
legend, I get it, but it still didn't make sense, dude.
He played
Bobby
with
Blotzer-
Ozzy too, man. Come on.
Bobby Blotzer didn't belong in that lineup either.
No, I agree. That's an odd one too.
The
Yeah,
Blots.
very odd.
All right, Charles. So what's your number 3?
My number 3 will be, ironically, probably the most important album to me personally. So technically, I guess it should be my number 1, but it's not, because I think the quality isn't quite there, but it's still the album that brought me to the dance. It is what made me a music fan and decide, hey, music's just not one of those things in my life. Besides wrestling or whatever, video games, whatever the fuck, became a passion that I wanted to study up on and learn about. And that would be the classic Appetite for Destruction from Guns N' Roses. It's just one of those heart songs albums for me. I don't listen to it as much as I used to, because I have heard it so many damn times, but it's the album that it brought me in. It's what separated me from like the crap, like some of the stuff you like, Mark, no offense, Bon Jovi and Poison.
I
all that
love
garbage.
You haven't heard me pick Bon Jovi or Poison as debut album yet.
I know, I'm just teasing you, man. Yeah, I know, but you'll have to look what the cat dragged in. I can't wait for that to come on your list. But no, I'm just teasing. Anyway, I mean, Guns N' Roses.
That's why I didn't pick Guns N' Roses. I knew you'd pick it. Okay, go ahead.
Has to be on my list, but I do think my top 2 do eclipse it by musical quality, just a hair. But this is still a fantastic album.
All right, Jerry, what's your number 2? Ah, yes, somebody picked it. I was getting worried because I didn't pick it.
I'll be shocked if I'm the only one that picked this one. I hope it won.
I didn't pick it because I knew somebody would pick it.
You didn't pick it.
I didn't pick it.
Listen, the fact of the matter is there are so many of these albums I could have picked that definitely would have been on there. I mean, I went the direction I went because I had to challenge myself, because it would have been too
That's what
easy.
I was doing. I could pick that Van Halen album a million times that I won.
Yeah, but it's pick your all-time favorites, man.
I don't have an all-time
but I want to give people a variety. There's so many all-time favorites.
Well, my last 4 have been my favorite 4 for a long time. But the rest of them I did change up a little bit from the last show that we did this on. So I understand what you're saying. So
yeah,
no, holy shit, dude! What a great fucking album this is, dude. I like Van Halen 2 better, but man, this one's a fucking game changer. Dude.
I like Fair Warning.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong either way with either one of those albums.
Brother, I can't pick anything over Atomic Punk, honestly. That's fucking song. What the fuck, dude? I remember when I heard that, like, when I was a little older, and I was like, dude, this is like, you couldn't put your finger on Van Halen. Really? What were they? They were like nothing that existed at the time. They really weren't. And, and even with David Lee Roth, I don't like David. I'm a singer. I don't like David Lee Roth as a singer. But God, I can't take anything away from him. The guy killed. He absolutely killed on all that stuff. Like, he was just unique and wonderful. Like, it was, freaking Van Halen, dude.
Yeah, man. That's a good pick, Jerry, and I'm so happy you picked it. I was getting worried nobody's going to pick it, and I was going to have to change my number 1 or 2. But thank you for picking it. But my number 2, Duran, self-titled album. Girls on Film, Planet Earth. Is there anybody out there? Is there something I should know?
A surprise.
Night Boat, Friends of Mine. This whole album is perfect. Not a bad song on here.
Never saw the appeal of that band, dude.
This is fucking new wave genius, dude.
Yeah.
People go to Devo. They need to look at this album first.
Dude, their first 3 albums are tremendous.
This album is fucking nothing like you ever heard. It's fucking
I
amazing.
do like that one album without the guitar player with what's that song, Ordinary World. I do like that.
Warren
I love that album.
was on that.
That's a good
the Wedding album's amazing. I love all Duran Duran, dude.
Yeah. Their newest album, I think it came out like 2-3 years ago. It was
Invisible,
really
great album too.
Yeah, it was really good.
Really good album. I saw that tour at the Hollywood Bowl. And then we get to your number 2, Chris.
All right, so this one is somebody said they hated that emo shit.
That was me.
This is kind of the beginning of that emo shit, but I don't know what kind of emo shit you dislike. So what kind of emo shit do you dislike though?
The Dashboard Confessional,
Okay, no, this
drive-through
isn't like
record
that. No, no,
stuff.
no, no. No, this is the heavy. This is a merging
I,
of
I'm talking about music that like now that whole anti-groomer thing that's
okay.
going on the
Yeah.
internet. Yeah, I'm talking
Okay.
about that emo scene.
Yeah, no, this is direct influence to Coheed and Cambria. Coheed and Cambria, I would consider a toned down version of this. Coheed and Cambria is definitely more progressive
I love
in their
Coheed.
in their nature, more guitar driven in their nature. But
Mhm.
fucking Glassjaw, man, holy shit, this
Oh,
band,
yes.
everything you wanted to know about Silence in 2000 is the beginnings of this emo core where it's screamy and it's melodic, but it's also like very rhythmic, and it's emotional as fuck. And the reason why this is a questionable album is because it's the most misogynist thing you've ever fucking heard. He throws the word cunt around on this album like it's just another word, like it's just not even a big deal. And he clearly Daryl Palumbo, the lead vocalist, was clearly heartbroken and very, very angry at somebody. And it comes through like a shot. Like it's without question, it's one of the most emotional, heavy albums I think I've ever heard. So it's questionable for that reason. But again, it goes back to what you had said earlier, Lou. Separating the artist from the art. I sometimes can do that, but also Daryl has come out over the past like 5 or 6 years and owned this and kind of said, I was young, I was heartbroken, I was this, I was that. I don't really believe you should treat women this way. And then on top of that, their next album, Worship and Tribute, was almost like retconning
Yeah, it was a
everything
180.
everything that was said on here. And one other note about Glassjaw, if you want to know how fucking cool this band is, first off, you should listen to them because Glassjaw just
I love
absolute.
Glassjaw.
Oh my god, their rhythmic stuff. They've had 2 separate drummers in the band for each album, both equally amazing, awesome stuff. The guitarist is one of the most unique and innovative and creative guys ever. He's tremendous. Daryl Palumbo is an awesome vocalist, but this band was so anti like establishment and so anti record label that when they put out Worship and Tribute, they couldn't get out of their contract. They did everything they could to get out of the contract. So they just started giving away the records. Like they
Yeah.
just started giving, they're like, don't buy this shit. Just take it. Just fucking take our record. Come to our shows and take this record. I fucking love this band so much. Glassjaw, everything you wanted to know about Silence.
No,
Awesome.
love that album. I love that band. I got to see them open for Deftones at the Roseland.
Mm.
I even my contact at Roadrunner in my college radio days even was able to get me an interview with Daryl, and he
That's
was
awesome.
really cool. So, that era of emo, yeah, I could totally get behind that because there was substance behind it. After a while, when it became like the nasally, whiny, my girlfriend broke up with me type bullshit, I was just like, all right, you're not saying anything that has any merit. This album had merit. And, Daryl and I are roughly the same age. So I could relate to it because
Right.
I had my heart broken too,
You know,
so I
you
got
know,
it.
it's interesting that you say that Glassjaw opened for Deftones. To me, I always said that Deftones was like West Coast Glassjaw. Like it had a slightly different tinge to them. Like they had more of a West Coast feel, whereas Glassjaw was to me, very clearly East Coast. So
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, we got to get going here. Lou, you're number 2.
I
Mark's
love
like,
it.
stop talking so much.
Sorry.
Charles is up at 3 in the morning, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll hurry it up real quick. I love Yngwie Malmsteen. I love Graham Bonnet. My brother had this on cassette, and I remember hearing it the first time. I had already heard Eddie, I'd already heard Michael Schenker, and then all of a sudden came this guy blazing up and down a Fender Strat, and I was like, "Who the hell is this?" And it was Yngwie Malmsteen. Alcatraz's "No Parole from Rock and Roll,"
Great album.
my second favorite debut album, and I'm still influenced by this album to this day. Severed Angel has a song out called "A Fate Worse Than Death,"
Great
and
song.
I will fully admit I ripped off Alcatraz's "Too Young to Die, Too Drunk to Live."
Love it.
So I have no shame in admitting that. Thank you, Yngwie. You influenced me for the better. Thank you.
All right. Jerry, what's your number one, brother?
I didn't
Oh,
do my
if you-
number two.
Oh,
I
what's your
didn't do
number
my
two?
two.
God.
What's your number two, Charles? I gotta make a mistake
Lock.
at one show. Yeah, go ahead.
Lockstep with Jerry Soup, VH, the mighty VH. Come on, man. Come on, Mark. You don't have to kick it off your list. If you come on, if it was OU 812 or 5150 as the debut, you'd thrown that up
I
there. That'd
could
be
have
number
put
one.
that as Sammy's debut in a band, but I didn't. He took
You better not
Images and
have
Blood.
his debut solo shit on there. I'll be
Who?
mad at you in that.
Who?
You better not have Sammy's debut solo album on your list. I'll be
That
mad
was a
at you.
horrible
Standing
debut.
Hampton.
No, that wasn't his
Ugh.
debut.
I'd accept
was it?
Montrose.
I
Oh,
think,
Montrose is fucking killer.
yeah.
Yeah.
But mighty VH, man. Come on. Of course.
Yeah.
Number two.
So what's your number one, Jerry?
Come on, if you know me, I mean, it's pretty easy. What do you think my favorite one is, man? Come on.
Yeah.
Best rock and roll band ever. Yeah, they borrowed a little bit off this album, but it's fucking classic. Like Good Times, Bad Times, How Many More Times, Communication Breakdown, Your Time Is Gonna Come. All fucking great songs. But even the songs they borrowed are fucking kick ass, dude. Fucking legendary band, man. One of my favorite of all time. No doubt in my mind, the best debut album ever in the history of music.
Yep. See, my number one is because I got on you for not picking it. So if I didn't pick it, I'd look like a fucking asshole. So mine is Tesla Mechanical Resonance. Yeah, I love that VH album, but I knew two or three of you guys are going to pick that album. I wanted to give more of a variety here with different musical tastes. So we just didn't all agree because agreeing is not fun. So Tesla Mechanical Resonance. I first saw that on MTV, Modern Day Cowboys. Like, look at this band. They're not in makeup. They're just sitting there, jeans and t-shirt. They look like Aerosmith, like old Aerosmith. They're fucking rocking. I went out and bought that tape that day. Mom took me to Tower Records, Mechanical Resonance. Love that fucking album, man. Great fucking album. Chris, what's your number one?
Oh my goodness. So we've come completely to the end. Prog metal genius. The beginnings of math metal as we know it today. And it incorporates all that stuff. It's like mathcore, prog metal, craziness, fucking pure chaos. A band out of England called Sick. Sikth. The trees are all dead and dried out, waiting for something wild. 2003 might be one of the sickest things you've ever heard. I highly recommend it. It's got everything from they got two vocalists, they got polyrhythms, it's got dissonance, wonderful melodies, one singer, one guy who screams like a fucking Looney Tune. It's just it's just pure madness. Sikth is awesome. Check it out.
All right, Lou, what's your number one?
Rest in peace, Ronnie James Dio, Holy Diver.
Holy
Uh,
diver!
Yeah.
Thank God you
Because
picked it.
as a guitar player, all I gotta say is this: Vivian Campbell took your typical pentatonic blues guitar scales, threw that in every guitar player before him into a wood chipper, plugged his amp and turned it up to 11, and completely obliterated everyone else around the time. I think Vivian Campbell gets so much shit for dumbing his sound down for Def Leppard, but again, he was doing a job in it for Holy Diver. Those were his riffs, his songs, his solos. Between him, Ronnie, Jimmy Bain, and Vinny Appice, perfect band, perfect debut record. Not a not 1 ounce of filler on it.
Besides the
agree
song
with you.
Gypsy, which is a great song, but a bad title.
I don't care. I love
we,
it.
we had a great album battle a couple weeks ago. Fucking Dio's Holy Diver and Ozzy's Blizzard of Oz. Man, that was a good fucking
Dio won. Holy Diver won.
Yeah.
So then we get to you, Charles. You're number one. Dun, 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 dun.
The ultimate mic drop in the history of rock and roll. Not only the greatest debut album, but probably the only greatest. We just did one album and said fuck off and kiss our ass for the rest of our lives. The greatest punk album ever. Never mind the Bullocks by the Sex Pistols. Not one dog track on it at all. One and done, the greatest ever. One of the great. I mean, just it's not only just a great debut album. Just that's it. It's their album, and that's how you go out. I wish Kiss would take note of that. A lot of these bands that just keep going and going. Hey, fuck it, we're done. Of course, there was a lot of squabbles with the band. I understand that, but
And
never.
murder.
Well, after the fact,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, when they kicked Glenn Matlock out because he liked the Beatles. I mean, there wouldn't have been Sid if it wasn't meant for Glenn Matlock liking the Beatles, I guess. There's all kinds of legends and stories of that band, but just a perfect album. I think every track on it's great, and blistering and what punk rock and rock music in general should be all about. So there you
All
go.
right, man. That was our show of our 11 debut albums. But before we go, Jerry, any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I got a couple. Just a few. I got the Doors debut, Pearl Jam's 10, Sabbath, of course, Blizzard of Oz, Ozzy, Holy Diver, Dio, Journey's debut album. Free Perry Journey is fucking awesome. You don't listen to him, I suggest you listen to him. It's great fucking shit. And that's it. That's all I got.
Well, I had the Beatles, Please Please Me, Rush Rush, Black Rose, Shake Your Moneymaker, Blue Murder, Badlands, Boston, B-52s, and Ted Nugent. Chris.
Of course, continuing with my staples, these are mostly because they're just important to music. Chuck Berry, After School Sessions, Aretha Franklin, the Beatles, Please Please Me, Jimi Hendrix Experience, Are You Experienced, Led Zeppelin 1, Black Sabbath, Ramones, and of course, if it wasn't for Rush, I would not be here. So Rush.
Isn't it just like there's so many great debut albums? I wonder if this new generation can find great debut albums.
But you know what's interesting? There's actually more second albums that are better than first. I found myself going through this list going, I wish I could pick that album instead of this one.
Yeah,
we should revisit this topic later on and do like another version of this, but not pick the ones that we picked tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my list then if we're gonna do that, because I don't want to watch the video again. Lou, any mentions?
Sure. Last Night in Town by Every Time I Die. Out in the Cellar by Rat. River Runs Red by Life of Agony.
Oh my God, good pick.
This great band out of Ireland that no one's ever heard of, but thankfully I heard of them because I thought they had a catchy name called Curb Dog. CD came out in '93, self-titled debut. If you could find it, it is on streaming media. Undertow by Tool, Ungod by Stabbing Westward, Empty by God Lives Underwater, Age of Quarrel by the Cro-Mags, One Day Remains by Alter Bridge, and Bad Brains.
Those are good ones, man. Hey, Charles.
Good on the LOA pick, man. River Runs Red is a fucking awesome album.
Any mentions, Charles?
Weezer Blue Album, Ghost, Pixies, Come on Pilgrim, Dr. Dre, The Chronic, Danzig, debut album from Danzig. There was so many that I had to leave off. It's like, it hurt, you know. But yeah, Dan. No,
right.
I wish I could have, but Michael Jackson Off the Wall wasn't his debut. I wish it was. As a solo artist, because that would have made it if it wasn't. Because I was looking into Mike Prince's self-titled debut is pretty cool.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love Bambi.
So, yeah.
So that's our episode on this. But before we go, Chris, pimp yourself.
Redbeard videos on YouTube, coming back in mid-September with all new content, and please check it out. I hope you will. And Lou, find a way to reach out to me, man.
I just
But, like,
subscribed to you on YouTube, so
hell yeah.
Oh.
All right. Well, how about it? Like, are you on Facebook?
I just added you too.
Yeah.
Ah, hell yeah. Cool.
Right
All
on.
nice.
I love it when you guys meet. You know, it's awesome. You guys have more in common than I have in common. But
All good. Hey, Mark, it's all love here, man. All good.
I know. But Lou, you got anything to pimp real quick?
Sure. If you want to check out my podcast, Music is Life podcast, check us out. Check me out on Linktree. That's linktr.ee/Music is Life podcast. Also check out Ratsaw Review over at ratsawreview.com. I just uploaded my interview with Gus G of Firewind, formerly of Ozzy. That debuted today at 12 o'clock, and I'm about to upload our interview with Sal Labriscato, original drummer of Typo Negative and Life of Agony. That was live, but there was a couple of glitches, so I had to download it and edit a couple of things. And check out my band Severed Angel. We're not really a touring band, but we are a band that's constantly putting material out, and I love it. I stand behind it. Again, Marc and Jerry have both championed the band, and I appreciate the love that they've given to us. And check us out over at severedangel.com. That's got all of our links, including our social media, our Bandcamp, our YouTube. We're about to release our second album, Skyward, in the following year. And it's funny because I really had no desire to write original music, but at the time my mom had passed away from COVID, and Wayne Noon, my drummer and friend for over 20 years, he was the one that kept pushing it. He's like, you got something to say, do it. And he kept pushing and pushing, and that's eventually what became Severed Angel. And I thought the well had dried up, but well, it's far from dried up, because we're about to do album number 2 next year, and album number 3 is in the works already. So, very proud of the work that Severed Angel's doing.
So Jerry, any final
Right on.
thoughts?
A great show, guys. I mean, it's always great having Chris on. Lou, thanks for coming on, man. Hope you can come on again in the future, man. Love having you, man.
Yeah, we'd love to, man. Thanks for having me.
Like and subscribe, everybody, man. This is a fun show I think we do for you all. So, that's all I got to say, man. Charles?
Chris, thanks for being on again. Lou, great to meet you.
Pleasure.
I'm gonna check that Carnivore out. So I'm definitely gotten more into punk and hardcore as years have gone on. So I got to check that out. And one love to the podcast community. How about we drop some of these wars?
I already
There you
did.
go.
I done it, dude. I'm done. But thank you guys for being on. Chris, as usual. Lou, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
That was funny because I accidentally called you. Facebook Messenger. We do that a lot in our groups. But thank you
Okay.
guys for coming on. Hit that thumbs up. Next week we'll have an episode, and God bless everybody. Take it easy.
Take care, everybody.
Cheers.
All right, man.
Later.
Bye bye.